The fluorescent lights of the hospital corridor flickered as 17-year-old Emma clutched her discharge papers with trembling hands, the weight of her father's words still echoing in her ears. We can't afford this burden anymore. She hadn't meant to overhear him speaking to her stepmother in hushed tones outside her hospital room, but the walls were thin, and the truth even thinner. Dr. Reeves, with kind eyes that had witnessed too many broken families, glanced at the discharge letter in Emma's file, the one her father had written explaining why no one would be picking her up, and made a decision that would alter the course of both their lives forever. What will Dr. Reeves do when he discovers the heartbreaking truth behind Emma's abandonment? Subscribe to our channel for more emotional stories that remind us how a single act of compassion can change everything. Comment below if you've ever witnessed someone finding family in unexpected places, and don't forget to like and share. Emma sat on the edge of the hospital bed, her sock-covered feet dangling above the polished floor. The thin hospital gown hung loosely around her frail frame, a frame that had grown even thinner during her week-long stay after kidney surgery. Her dark hair fell in unwashed strands around her pale face as she stared at the clock. 2:37 p.m. Her father had promised to pick her up at noon. Her phone buzzed with a text. Something came up at work. Figure it out. No apology. No explanation. She swallowed hard, fighting back tears. This wasn't the first time. But somehow it hurt worse now. Maybe it was the medication making her emotional. Or maybe it was hearing him call her a financial burden to her stepmother just hours ago. We can't keep doing this, Diane, he had hissed in the hallway. The medical bills, the special diet, the medications. We have the twins to think about now. She's not even your responsibility. She's your daughter, Robert, her stepmother had replied, voice tight. A burden we can't afford anymore. Emma had pressed her hospital pillow against her ears, but the words had already seeped in, poisonous and permanent. A soft knock at the door pulled her from the memory. Dr. Reeves entered, his tall frame filling the doorway. His salt-and-pepper hair was neatly combed, contrasting with the subtle exhaustion in his eyes after a 12-hour shift. Emma, aren't you supposed to be halfway home by now? He asked, checking his watch. Just waiting for my ride, she lied, forcing a smile. They're running late. Dr. Reeves frowned, glancing at her packed bag and the discharge papers in her lap. I need to finalize your paperwork anyway. Mind if I check your file once more? Emma nodded, relief washing over her. Another few minutes before she had to figure out how to get home, or if she even had a home to return to. Dr. Reeves stepped outside to the nurse's station. Emma could see him through the half-closed door as he flipped through her file. His expression changed suddenly, eyebrows knitting together as he pulled out a folded piece of paper. Inside the file, tucked between medical forms and insurance paperwork, was a letter her father must have left earlier. Dr. Reeves unfolded it, eyes scanning the contents. Emma watched as his professional composure cracked. His jaw tightened, and, for a moment, something like anger flashed across his face before settling into profound concern. Before Emma could look away, Dr. Reeves glanced up and caught her watching. He quickly refolded the letter and returned to her room, the paper clutched tightly in his hand. Emma, he began, his voice gentler than before. Is there something you want to tell me about your discharge plans? My dad's just running late, she insisted, eyes fixed on her hands. Dr. Reeves pulled up a chair and sat facing her. In that moment, he wasn't just her surgeon, but a human being seeing another human being in pain. Emma, your father left this letter, he hesitated. I'm afraid he's indicated that he won't be coming to get you. The words hung in the air between them. I know, she whispered finally. I heard him earlier. The letter says he can no longer support your medical needs and that. Dr. Reeves paused, clearly choosing his words carefully, that your stepmother's children must be his priority now. Emma nodded, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. He's been different since Mom died. After he married Diane and they had the twins. Her voice trailed off. Dr. Reeves didn't interrupt, allowing her the space to continue if she wished. Mom would have never let this happen, Emma said finally, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. She made him promise to take care of me before she died. I guess promises to dead people don't matter much. Dr. Reeves placed the letter on the bed beside her. You can read it if you want, he said quietly. Emma stared at the folded paper, but made no move to touch it. I don't need to. I already know what it says. Dr. Reeves nodded, respecting her decision. Do you have somewhere else you can go? Other family, perhaps? Emma shook her head. Mom's parents died before I was born. Dad's mom has dementia and lives in a facility in Arizona. She attempted a smile that didn't reach her eyes. It's fine. I'll figure something out. I'm almost 18 anyway. Dr. Reeves stood up, straightening his white coat. Give me a few minutes, he said, his voice taking on a determined edge that Emma hadn't heard before. Don't go anywhere. As if she had anywhere to go. Through the window, Emma watched autumn leaves swirl across the hospital parking lot. 3 years ago, her mother had held her hand in a different hospital room, promising that everything would be okay. Another broken promise. Dr. Reeves returned 20 minutes later, his expression unreadable. We need to talk about what happens next, Emma, he said, closing the door behind him. Dr. Michael Reeves stood in the hospital administrator's office, arms crossed as he faced Barbara Chen, who had been called in despite it being Saturday afternoon. It's completely unacceptable, Dr. Reeves insisted. How can we discharge a 17-year-old, post-surgical patient with nowhere to go? Barbara sighed, pushing her glasses up her nose. I've called social services, but weekend placement is nearly impossible, especially for someone with ongoing medical needs. They're suggesting we keep her admitted until Monday when more options will be available. Keep her admitted for what? She's medically ready for discharge. Insurance won't cover it, and she'll end up with more bills she can't pay. Dr. Reeves ran a hand through his hair in frustration. What do you suggest, Michael? Barbara asked. We can't keep her indefinitely, and we can't just put her in a taxi to nowhere. Dr. Reeves paced the small office. What about emergency foster placement? For a 17-year-old with complex medical needs? On a weekend? Barbara shook her head. You know how the system works. He did know. After 15 years as a surgeon, he'd seen too many patients fall through the cracks of an overburdened system. I'll take her, he said suddenly, surprising even himself. Barbara stared at him. You'll what? Just temporarily, he clarified, until social services can make proper arrangements on Monday. She needs somewhere safe to recover. Michael, that's highly irregular and potentially crosses professional boundaries. So is abandoning your child after major surgery, he countered. Look, I have medical training. I live 15 minutes away. I have a guest room that's never used. It's just for the weekend. Barbara studied him carefully. This isn't about your son, is it? The question hit him like a physical blow. This is about Emma, he said firmly, a patient who needs help. After further discussion and numerous forms, emergency temporary guardianship papers, liability waivers, and a hastily arranged call with the hospital's legal counsel, Dr. Reeves returned to Emma's room. She sat exactly where he'd left her, but she'd changed into jeans and a sweater, ready to leave, though to where? Neither of them had known until now. Good news, he said with forced cheerfulness. We've made arrangements for the weekend. Emma looked up, her green eyes, so startlingly like his son's had been, full of wary hope. What kind of arrangements? Dr. Reeves explained the situation, as matter-of-factly as possible. Emma would stay at his home until Monday, when social services could find appropriate placement. He emphasized the temporary nature of the arrangement, the professional oversight, and the practicality of having a doctor monitor her recovery. When he finished, Emma was silent for a long moment. Why would you do that for me? She finally asked, her voice small. It was a fair question, one Barbara had asked, and one he wasn't entirely sure he could answer. Because it's the right thing to do, he said simply. Emma looked unconvinced. I should call my dad again. Maybe he's just angry. Maybe if I promise to get a job to help with the bills. Emma, Dr. Reeves interrupted gently. Have you tried calling him? She nodded, eyes downcast. He's not answering. What about your stepmother? Emma's fingers twisted nervously in her lap. She texted back. Said they've changed the locks for security reasons, and I should stay with friends until things cool down. She attempted a smile that came out as a grimace. Guess they've been wanting to get rid of me for a while. Dr. Reeves felt a surge of anger he struggled to conceal. Then let's go with our plan, just until Monday. As they walked toward the exit, Emma leaning slightly on her IV pole that had been converted to a mobile unit, Nurse Jackie approached. She'd been Emma's primary nurse all week and had a soft spot for the quiet, polite teenager. Dr. Reeves, can I speak with you? Jackie asked, her expression concerned. Emma waited by the elevator while Dr. Reeves stepped aside with the nurse. I heard what you're doing, Jackie said in a low voice. It's kind of you, but are you sure this is wise? It's just temporary, he assured her. That's not what I mean. Jackie glanced at Emma. You lost your family 5 years ago. Taking home a patient who resembles your son, this has nothing to do with that, Dr. Reeves said firmly, though the observation unsettled him. Jackie looked unconvinced. Just be careful. For both your sakes. Don't let this be about filling. Avoid. It's about not leaving a kid stranded after surgery, he replied, more sharply than intended. Nothing more. If you say so. Jackie handed him a bag of medications and a folder of instructions, her discharge medications and care plan. Call me if either of you needs anything. Dr. Reeves thanked her and returned to Emma, who pretended she hadn't been watching their exchange. In the hospital parking garage, Emma hesitated before getting into his Tesla. I've never been in a car this nice, she admitted. It's just a car, he replied, helping her with the seatbelt to minimize strain on her surgical site. As they drove in awkward silence, Emma stared out the window, her reflection ghostly against the glass. Dr. Reeves found himself stealing glances at her, this stranger who was now temporarily in his care. I have a housekeeper, Maria, who comes daily, he explained, breaking the silence. She'll be there to help with anything you need when I'm at work. Emma nodded, still looking out the window. I don't know what your father told you about your post-surgical care, but you'll need to take it easy for a few weeks. No heavy lifting, plenty of rest, and proper nutrition. I know, she said quietly. This isn't my first surgery. The simple statement hung between them as Dr. Reeves turned onto the tree-lined street leading to his home. How much had this girl already endured? And how could a father abandon his child when she needed him most? As they pulled into the circular driveway of his large colonial home, he saw Emma's eyes widen. You live here? She asked. Alone? Dr. Reeves nodded, suddenly seeing his house through her eyes. Imposing, beautiful, and utterly empty. It's just for 2 nights, he reminded her, and himself. Then we'll find you somewhere better. The house was immaculate. That was Emma's first thought as she stepped cautiously into Dr. Reeves's home, her worn sneakers squeaking against the marble foyer. High ceilings, gleaming hardwood floors, and a grand staircase that curved elegantly upward. It was like walking into a magazine. Spread, not a home where people actually lived. Maria, Dr. Reeves called out, setting Emma's small duffel bag down by a console table that probably cost more than everything she owned. A woman in her 60s appeared from what Emma assumed was the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her silver-streaked black hair was pulled into a neat bun, and her eyes widened slightly at the sight of Emma. Dr. Reeves? I wasn't expecting you home so early, and with a guest, she said, her slight accent revealing traces of her Colombian heritage. Maria, this is Emma, Dr. Reeves explained. She'll be staying with us for the weekend. Emma, this is Maria, who keeps this place and me running. Maria's expression shifted from surprise to warm understanding. Oh, the young patient you mentioned. Of course. She approached Emma with a gentle smile. You look exhausted, dear. Are you hungry? Before Emma could answer, her stomach growled loudly, answering for her. She hadn't eaten since the bland hospital breakfast that morning. Maria chuckled. I'll take that as a yes. I was just making chicken soup. Nothing better for healing. Thank you, Emma murmured, overwhelmed by the kindness after a day of rejection. Let me show you to your room first, Dr. Reeves said. You should rest before dinner. He led her up the grand staircase, each step an effort for Emma's weakened body. At the top, a long hallway stretched in both directions, lined with closed doors. There are 5 bedrooms up here, he explained, leading her to the right. Mine is at the end of the hall. Maria has a suite downstairs near the kitchen. This will be your room. He opened a door to reveal a guest bedroom larger than Emma's entire bedroom and study space at her father's house. The walls were painted a soft blue-gray, with white bedding and curtains giving the room an airy feel. A private bathroom gleamed with marble and chrome. It's beautiful, Emma said, unable to hide her awe. Maria keeps all the rooms ready for guests, Dr. Reeves explained, though something in his tone suggested guests were rare. There are fresh towels in the bathroom. Do you need help unpacking? Emma clutched her small duffel bag closer. No, thank you. I don't have much. An awkward silence fell between them. Dr. Reeves stood in the doorway, clearly uncertain about what to do next. For a man who made life-or-death decisions daily in the operating room, he seemed remarkably out of his element having a teenage girl. In his home, the Wi-Fi password is on the desk, he said finally, and there's a TV in that cabinet if you want to watch something. I'll be downstairs if you need anything. Just, make yourself at home. After he left, Emma sat gingerly on the edge of the bed, wincing at the pull of her surgical stitches. Make yourself at home. An impossible request when she no longer had a home to compare it to. She unpacked her meager belongings, 3 changes of clothes, a toothbrush, her phone charger, and a dog-eared copy of The Secret Garden that had been her mother's. She arranged them carefully in the vast bedroom, her possessions looking small and pathetic against the luxury surrounding them. In the adjoining bathroom, Emma caught her reflection in the oversized mirror. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her skin had the sallow tint of someone who'd spent too long under fluorescent hospital lights. Her dark hair hung limp around her thin face. No wonder her father didn't want her around. She was a reminder of illness, of her mother's death, of everything he wanted to forget. Downstairs, she could hear the muffled voices of Dr. Reeves and Maria. Curiosity drew her to the partially open door where she could just make out their conversation. "Not what I expected for your first houseguest in years," Maria was saying. "It's temporary," Dr. Reeves replied. "Just until Monday." That poor girl. What kind of father abandons his child after surgery? The kind who's already replaced her with a new family, Dr. Reeves said, his voice tight with barely contained anger. The letter he left. I've never seen anything so cold. There was a pause. Then Maria spoke more softly. "Michael, have you thought this through? It's been 5 years since—" "This has nothing to do with James," Dr. Reeves interrupted sharply. "Or Catherine. This is about a patient who needs temporary help." The name James hung in the air. Emma didn't know who James was, but the pain in Dr. Reeves' voice was unmistakable. It mirrored her own when she spoke of her mother. "Of course," Maria said gently. "I'm just saying, having a young person in this house again, it might bring up things you've been avoiding. I'm a doctor, Maria. I help people every day, at the hospital, not in your home, not in your sanctuary." Emma stepped back from the door, feeling like an intruder. She'd suspected Dr. Reeves's perfect house felt empty for a reason. Now she wondered who James was, and what had happened to him. She made her way back to the bed and lay down carefully, mindful of her surgical site. The mattress was cloud soft, the sheets smoother than any she'd felt before. Despite her anxiety, exhaustion pulled at her eyelids. When Maria knocked softly on her door an hour later, Emma startled awake, momentarily confused by the unfamiliar surroundings. "Dinner's ready, dear," Maria said. "Can you manage the stairs or shall I bring a tray up?" "I can come down," Emma insisted, not wanting to be more trouble than she already was. In the formal dining room, Dr. Reeves sat at one end of a table that could easily seat 12. A single place setting had been arranged at the other end, with Maria placing a steaming bowl of soup before it. "This is silly," Dr. Reeves said suddenly. "We're too far apart to talk." He picked up his place setting and moved it to sit adjacent, to Emma instead. The gesture, small as it was, made Emma's throat tight with unexpected emotion. "Maria's soup is legendary at the hospital," Dr. Reeves said, attempting conversation. "Doctors fight over leftovers when she sends some with me." "It smells amazing," Emma replied, carefully lifting a spoonful to her lips. The rich, homemade chicken soup was nothing like the watery hospital version. "It tastes even better," Maria beamed from the doorway. "Eat as much as you want. There's plenty." As they ate in awkward silence, Emma couldn't help noticing how the massive dining room emphasized their small number. The walls were lined with expensive-looking art, but no family photos. Everything was tasteful, coordinated, and completely impersonal, like her father's new house after he remarried, a place where everything matched, but nothing felt like home. Emma lay awake in the unfamiliar bedroom, moonlight filtering through the gauzy curtains. The digital clock on the nightstand glowed 2:17 a.m. Despite the luxurious comfort of the bed, sleep remained elusive. Her surgical incision throbbed dully, a constant reminder of her vulnerability. She'd taken her evening medications under Dr. Reeves's watchful eye, but pain wasn't what kept her awake. It was the strangeness of everything, being in this pristine house with a doctor she barely knew, abandoned by the only parent she had left. She reached for her phone, checking one more. Time for messages from her father. Nothing. Not even a text asking if she was okay. 3 years ago, when her mother was dying, he wouldn't have dreamed of leaving her alone like this. Emma closed her eyes, memories washing over her. She'd been 14 when her mother was diagnosed with aggressive ovarian cancer. Within 8 months, her vibrant, loving mother had withered away, leaving behind a devastated husband and daughter. For a while, grief had united them. Her father would sit on the edge of Emma's bed at night, both of them crying, sharing memories of her mother. "We'll get through this together," he'd promised. "It's you and me now, kiddo." Then came Diane, his administrative assistant at the accounting firm. Pretty, efficient Diane, who brought order to their chaotic, grief-stricken household. Emma had been grateful at first, grateful that the dishes got done, that meals appeared on the table, that her father sometimes smiled again. The wedding happened quickly, just 18 months after her mother's death. "Your mother would want me to be happy," her father had explained. Emma, still deep in her own grief, had nodded numbly. Then the twins were born, and everything changed. The house in the suburbs where Emma had grown up was sold. "Too many memories," her father said, though Emma suspected it had more to do with Diane wanting a fresh start. They moved to a larger home in a different school district, where no one knew them as the sad widower and his daughter. Emma's first kidney infection happened shortly after the move, then another, then pyelonephritis that landed her in the hospital for a week. Each medical crisis seemed to drive her father further away, as if her illness were a personal betrayal. "Can't you just be normal?" He'd snapped once after canceling a business trip to deal with her emergency room visit. The words had cut deeper than any surgical incision. A soft sound in the hallway pulled Emma from her memories. Footsteps, hesitant and slow. She tensed, listening as they paused outside her door before continuing down the hall. Curiosity overcame caution. Emma eased herself out of bed, wincing at the pull of her stitches. She opened her door a crack, peering into the darkened hallway. A sliver of light spilled from a partially open door at the far end. Not Dr. Reeves' bedroom, but one of the other rooms she hadn't seen. Emma hesitated, knowing she should return to bed. But something drew her forward. Moving silently in her sock feet, she approached the illuminated doorway. Through the narrow opening, she could see Dr. Reeves sitting on the edge of a twin bed, his back to the door. The room beyond was clearly a boy's bedroom. Soccer trophies lined a shelf, posters of professional players adorned the walls, and a desk held what looked like school textbooks, frozen in time. Dr. Reeves's shoulders were slumped, his head bowed. In his hands, he held what appeared to be a small model car. The posture of complete defeat was so at odds with his confident hospital demeanor that Emma felt like she was witnessing something sacred and private. "I miss you," she heard him whisper to the empty room. "Every day." Emma backed away, heart pounding. She'd intruded on something deeply personal. As she retreated, her elbow bumped a small decorative table, sending a vase wobbling. She caught it before it fell, but not before Dr. Reeves whirled around. "Emma?" His voice was rough, as if unused for hours or thick with emotion. "I'm sorry," she stammered. "I heard something and got worried. I didn't mean to spy." Dr. Reeves stood in the doorway now, his tall frame blocking her view of the room behind him. In the dim light, she could see he was still fully dressed, as if he'd never gone to bed. "You should be resting," he said, his professional tone returning like a mask slipping back into place. "I couldn't sleep," Emma admitted. "New place." Dr. Reeves nodded, understanding. "Pain level?" 3, she answered automatically, used to the medical scale. "Manageable." An awkward silence stretched between them, filled with unasked questions. "Was that your son's room?" Emma finally asked, immediately regretting the intrusion as Dr. Reeves's expression shuddered. "Yes," he said simply, offering nothing more. "I'm sorry," she said again, not sure what she was apologizing for. The intrusion, the question, or whatever tragedy had clearly occurred. Dr. Reeves sighed, running a hand through his hair. His name was James. He was 12 when he died. Car accident, 5 years ago. The words were clinical, detached, as if he were discussing a patient and not his own child. "My wife Catherine was driving. Drunk driver hit them head on. She died instantly. James lasted 3 days in intensive care." His voice remained steady, but his eyes held the hollow look Emma recognized from her own mirror after her mother died. "I was in surgery," he continued, "saving someone else's child while mine was dying." Emma stood frozen, overwhelmed by the weight of his confession. "I lost my mom 3 years ago," she offered, not knowing what else to say. "Cancer." Dr. Reeves nodded, a flash of recognition passing between them, the silent understanding of those who've watched loved ones slip away. "Does it get easier?" she asked. The question she'd wanted to ask her father but never dared. No, Dr. Reeves answered honestly. Not easier. But eventually the grief becomes part of you, like learning to walk with a limp. Emma nodded, understanding perfectly. You should get some sleep, Dr. Reeves said, his doctor voice returning. Your body needs rest to heal, so should you, Emma replied, surprising herself with her boldness. A ghost of a smile touched Dr. Reeves' lips. Touché. Good night, Emma. Good night, Dr. Reeves. Michael, he said. When we're not at the hospital, you can call me Michael. Emma nodded, retreating to her room as Dr. Reeves, Michael, closed the door to his son's bedroom, sealing away his grief once more. Back in bed, Emma stared at the ceiling, thinking about loss and the different ways people carried it. Her father had tried to outrun his grief, replacing old memories with a new family where illness and death had no place. Michael Reeves had preserved his grief in amber, keeping his son's room as a shrine while he moved through life with that professional mask firmly in place. And Emma? She wasn't sure how she carried her grief, perhaps in her very cells, in the illness that had manifested after her mother's death, as if her body were determined to follow her mother into that darkness. As sleep finally began to claim her, Emma wondered if perhaps grief wasn't something to be carried alone. Maybe it was meant to be shared, like Maria's soup, passed between people who understood its bitter taste. Sunlight streamed through the windows as Emma opened her eyes, momentarily, disoriented by the unfamiliar surroundings. The events of yesterday crashed back. The hospital, her father's abandonment, Dr. Reeves's unexpected kindness, and their middle-of-the-night encounter. The digital clock read 9:47 a.m. Emma sat up too quickly and winced as pain shot through her. Sighed. She'd never been allowed to sleep this late at home. Her father insisted idle hands were the devil's workshop, a phrase he'd never used before her mother died. A soft knock at the door preceded Maria's voice. Emma, are you awake, dear? Yes, come in, Emma called, hastily smoothing down her bedhead. Maria entered carrying a tray with toast, scrambled eggs, and a glass of orange juice. Dr. Reeves said to let you sleep. Your body needs rest to heal. She set the tray on the bedside table. How are you feeling this morning? Better, thank you, Emma lied, not wanting to seem ungrateful. In truth, her surgical site throbbed, and her head felt foggy from pain medication. Maria's knowing eyes suggested she wasn't fooled. Your medications are on the tray. Dr. Reeves left detailed instructions. Emma glanced at the neat row of pills beside her breakfast. Is he at work? He went in for emergency surgery early this morning. He'll be back this afternoon. Maria adjusted the curtains, letting in more light. He said to make yourself at home, and that he called social services to check on Monday's arrangements. The reminder that this sanctuary was temporary sent a chill through Emma. Monday loomed just a day away. I should probably go, Emma said suddenly, setting aside the breakfast tray. I'm imposing, and I'm sure Dr. Reeves has better things to do than babysit me. Maria frowned. Go where exactly, Emma? Hadn't thought that far ahead. I could stay with a friend, she suggested, though the friends she'd had before her mother's death had drifted away during her prolonged absences from school due to illness. Without your medications? Without medical supervision after major surgery? Maria shook her head firmly. Eat your breakfast, take your pills, and stop this nonsense. Nobody is sending you away. The kindness in Maria's voice nearly undid Emma. She picked up a piece of toast to hide the sudden trembling of her hands. Maria softened, sitting on the edge of the bed. I've worked for Dr. Reeves for 7 years. I was here before the accident, and I stayed after. In 5 years, he's never brought anyone home. Not a date, not a friend, barely even colleagues. This house has been a mausoleum. She patted Emma's hand. Until you. I'm just a patient, Emma protested. Perhaps, Maria conceded. But you're also the first person who's made him act like a human being again, not just a doctor who happens to sleep here sometimes. Emma didn't know how to respond to that. She focused on her breakfast instead, surprised to find she had an appetite. After eating and taking her medications, Emma showered carefully, keeping her surgical dressing dry as instructed. She dressed in her cleanest jeans and a faded blue sweater, then ventured downstairs. The house was quiet, except for the distant sound of Maria working in the kitchen. Sunlight illuminated the living room Emma had barely glimpsed the night before. Like the rest of the house, it was immaculately decorated but oddly impersonal. Expensive leather furniture, abstract art, built-in bookshelves filled with medical texts and classics that looked untouched. On the mantel, a single framed photograph stood, a woman with auburn hair laughing as she hugged a boy who shared Dr. Reeves' eyes. Catherine and James. Emma approached it cautiously, drawn by the joy captured in that frozen moment. They were in Maine for summer vacation. Maria's voice came from behind her. 2 months before the accident. Emma startled, nearly knocking over the frame. I wasn't snooping. It's the only family photo he keeps out, Maria said, moving to stand beside her. He packed away the rest, said it hurt too much to see them everywhere. Emma understood that impulse. Her father had done the same with her mother's photos, though Emma had rescued a few to keep in her room. I should call my dad, Emma said suddenly, feeling guilty for finding comfort in this house while her father might be worried. Maria's expression turned skeptical, but she nodded. Use the phone in the study for privacy. I'll be in the kitchen if you need anything. In the wood-paneled study, Emma sat at a massive desk and dialed her father's number with trembling fingers. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. Dad? It's me, she began, her voice small. I'm staying with my doctor for the weekend. I'm okay. I wondered if I could come home on Monday. Maybe we could talk. She paused, hating the pleading note in her voice. Call me back, please. She hung up and tried her stepmother next. To her surprise, Diane answered on the second ring. Emma? Her stepmother sounded wary. Where are you? I'm safe, Emma assured her. My surgeon arranged temporary housing until Monday. That's good. Diane's relief was palpable even through the phone. Your father's been very stressed lately. The medical bills, the twins, work pressure. He just needs some time. Emma swallowed hard. Can I come home on Monday? The silence stretched for several seconds. I think it's better if you give him more space, Diane finally said. Maybe a few weeks? The twins are just getting over colds. And with your compromised immune system, it was the excuse they always used. The twins' health, Emma's medical fragility, as if illness were contagious, as if she were contagious. I see, Emma said, her voice flat. Tell him I called. She hung up before Diane could respond, sitting motionless at the desk as the reality of her situation sank in. This wasn't a temporary conflict. Her father wasn't coming back for her. Not Monday, maybe not ever. A wave of dizziness washed over her, the room tilting sickeningly. Emma gripped the edge of the desk, taking deep breaths. She was alone. Truly alone. Emma? Dr. Reeves' voice cut through her panic. She looked up to find him standing in the doorway, still in scrubs, concern etched on his face. Maria said you were making calls. Are you okay? You're home early, she managed, avoiding the question. The surgery went quicker than expected. He approached cautiously, his clinical gaze assessing her. You're pale. Pain level? 5, she admitted, then corrected herself. Maybe 7. Without asking permission, Dr. Reeves placed 2 fingers against her wrist, checking her pulse. Elevated. Are you feeling feverish? No, The words caught in her throat. I called my dad. Understanding dawned in his eyes. They don't want me back, Emma said, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. Not Monday. Not for weeks. Maybe not ever. Dr. Reeves's expression hardened, a muscle twitching in his jaw. I see. What happens to me now? Emma asked, hating how young and scared she sounded. Dr. Reeves sat in the chair opposite her, his exhaustion from the early surgery evident in the shadows beneath his eyes. I spoke with social services this morning. Given your age and medical needs, finding appropriate placement is challenging. Emma's heart sank. So I'll go to a group home? That's one option, he acknowledged, but not necessarily the best one for your recovery. What are the others? Dr. Reeves hesitated, as if weighing his words carefully. You could stay here, he said finally, at least until you're fully recovered and we sort out a more permanent solution. Emma stared at him, certain she'd misheard. Here? With you? It's not ideal, I know, he said quickly, but from a medical perspective, having your surgeon monitor your recovery has obvious benefits, and the stability would be good for you. Why would you do that? Emma asked, the same question she'd asked the day before. You barely know me. Dr. Reeves was silent for a long moment, his gaze drifting to the lone family photo visible through the study door. Because someone should, he said simply. Before Emma could respond, she felt a sharp pain in her side, different from the usual. Surgical discomfort. She gasped, doubling over. Dr. Reeves was at her side instantly, his personal awkwardness replaced by professional focus. What is it? Sharp or dull pain? Sharp, Emma managed through gritted teeth. And hot, without hesitation. Dr. Reeves lifted her sweater just enough to check the surgical dressing. His expression tightened at what he saw. The incision is inflamed. We need to get you back to the hospital. Is it serious? Emma asked, fear spiking through her pain. Potentially. He answered honestly. Post-surgical infections can be dangerous if not treated quickly, but we caught it early. As Dr. Reeves helped her to the car, his arm steady around her waist, Emma was struck by the irony. After a lifetime of her father resenting her illnesses, she'd found someone who saw her medical needs not as a burden, but as his purpose. That hospital corridors felt different with Dr. Reeves at her side, rather than behind a clipboard. He bypassed the emergency room entirely, using his access badge to take Emma directly to a treatment room in the surgical ward. Dr. Reeves, a nurse said, surprised to see him in weekend clothes with a patient in tow. We weren't expecting you. Today, post-op infection, Melanie. Emma Wilson, kidney surgery 5 days ago. His tone was clipped. Professional. Get me IV antibiotics, stat. And page Dr. Chen for a consult. Emma watched as the hospital staff jumped into action at his commands. No waiting room, no forms to fill out, no questions about insurance. The power of his presence made her father's abandonment feel even more profound. As a nurse inserted an IV line into Emma's arm, Dr. Reeves examined her surgical site with gloved hands, his touch gentle but clinical. Localized infection, he murmured, more to himself than to her. Caught it early, thankfully. How bad is it? Emma asked, trying to keep the fear from her voice. Treatable, he answered honestly, but it could have become serious if we'd waited. A curtain of dizziness fell over Emma as the fever took hold. She was vaguely aware of Dr. Chen arriving, of hushed medical discussions, of someone saying her white blood cell count was elevated. Time blurred. At some point she was moved to a private room. The antibiotics made her veins feel cold, then hot. Nurses came and went. Dr. Reeves remained a constant presence, checking her vitals, adjusting her medications, his face set in lines of concentration. We should call your father, one of the nurses suggested during a moment of clarity. No, Emma, and Dr. Reeves said simultaneously. The nurse looked between them, confused. I'm her temporary guardian, Dr. Reeves explained, showing paperwork Emma didn't remember him completing. Her father is unavailable. The truth of those words hit Emma like a physical blow. Unavailable, as if he were on a business trip, rather than having deliberately abandoned her. Try to rest, Dr. Reeves told her, adjusting her IV. The antibiotics are working, but your body needs to fight this. Are you staying? Emma asked, hating how young she sounded. I'm not going anywhere, he promised. True to his word, when Emma woke hours later, Dr. Reeves was still there, reviewing charts in a chair beside her bed. The clock on the wall read 9:47 p.m. You should go home, Emma said, her voice raspy. I'm just sleeping anyway. Dr. Reeves looked up, setting aside the chart. How's the pain? 1 to 10. 4, she answered truthfully. Better than before. He nodded, checking her temperature with a digital thermometer. Down to 100.2. The antibiotics are working. You didn't answer my question, Emma persisted. Why aren't you going home? Dr. Reeves hesitated. Because I told you I'd stay. A simple answer, but one that carried more weight than Emma was prepared for. When was the last time an adult had kept a promise to her? Before she could respond, the door opened and a nurse entered with a cell phone. Dr. Reeves, there's a call for you at the desk. Robert Wilson? He says he's Emma's father. Emma froze, her heart monitor betraying her spike in anxiety with faster beeping. Dr. Reeves's expression hardened. I'll take it, he said, following the nurse out. Emma strained to hear the conversation through the partially open door, catching only fragments. Critical infection, Dr. Reeves was saying, his voice tight with controlled anger. A pause as her father responded. Abandonment, Dr. Reeves again, more heated now. Legal implications, another pause. Temporary. Guardianship already filed. His voice lowered, but the steel in it remained. More than enough resources to provide. Emma couldn't hear her father's response, but Dr. Reeves's next words came through clearly. No, Mr. Wilson, I don't think you understand. I'm not asking for money. I'm telling you that your daughter is receiving proper care for the first time since her mother died, and I intend to ensure that continues. Emma's throat tightened. No one had stood up for her like that since her mother. Dr. Reeves returned moments later, his face flushed with barely contained anger. "He called," Emma said unnecessarily. "Yes." Dr. Reeves busied himself checking her. "IV bag. What did he say?" Dr. Reeves sighed, clearly weighing how much to tell her. "He wanted to know about the cost of your treatment." Emma nodded, unsurprised. "He's always worried about the bills." "Yes. Well, I assured him that wouldn't be a concern." Dr. Reeves's tone was clipped. "Because of the insurance?" "Because I'm covering it." Emma stared at him, stunned. "You can't do that. It's too much." "Emma," Dr. Reeves said gently, "I'm a surgical department head at one of the top hospitals in the country. I've been saving lives for 20 years. Trust me when I say I can afford your medical bills." The casual way he dismissed what had been the source of so much tension in her family left Emma speechless. All this time, her father had made her feel like her illness was bankrupting them, when a single doctor could cover the costs without blinking. "He doesn't want me back, does he?" Emma asked, already knowing the answer. Dr. Reeves' hesitation confirmed. "Yet, he thinks you'd be better off with other arrangements. He told you to send me to foster care." Emma translated flatly. "That's not happening," Dr. Reeves said with finality. "Not unless you want it to." "What are the options?" Emma asked, fighting to keep her voice steady. "We can discuss that when you're feeling better." He adjusted her blanket with surprising tenderness. "For now, just focus on healing." As he turned to leave, Emma caught his sleeve. "Dr. Reeves, Michael, thank you for staying, for everything." Something shifted in his expression, a softening around the eyes. "You're welcome, Emma." In the hallway outside, Emma could hear hushed voices, nurses exchanging gossip. "Did you hear? Dr. Reeves brought in that teenager himself, staying with her around the clock. I heard her father abandoned her after surgery. Can you imagine? Well, with Dr. Reeves's history, it's no wonder he's taken her under his wing. Still, getting personally involved with a patient, the ethics committee is already asking questions. After what he lost, let the man help someone if it heals him too." Emma pretended to be asleep when a nurse peeked in, not wanting to acknowledge she'd overheard, but the conversation stayed with her as she drifted off. Dr. Reeves was risking professional complications to help her. Why would he do that for a stranger? Unless, perhaps, she wasn't just a patient to him. Unless, in her, he saw a chance to save someone when he couldn't save his own family. The thought should have bothered her, being someone's redemption project. Instead, it felt like the first honest connection she'd had since her mother died. Two broken people recognizing something in each other that needed healing. As sleep claimed her, Emma wondered if perhaps they could help each other find their way back from the shadows of the past. 3 days later, Emma was discharged from the hospital for the second time. The infection had responded well to antibiotics, though Dr. Reeves insisted on continuing IV treatment at home for another 48 hours. Home was now unquestionably his house. No one had mentioned temporary arrangements or Monday deadlines. Emma's father hadn't called again after that one conversation with Dr. Reeves. As they pulled into the circular driveway, Emma noticed small changes from when she'd left. The porch light was on despite the afternoon sun. Flower pots that had been empty now burst with yellow mums, little touches that made the imposing house seem more welcoming. "Maria's been busy," Dr. Reeves commented, helping Emma from the car with gentle hands. "She stress cleans when she's worried." Inside, the enticing aroma of baking filled the air. Maria emerged from the kitchen, wiping flour-covered hands on her apron. Her face lit up at the sight of Emma. "Gracias a Dios!" she exclaimed, rushing forward but stopping short of hugging Emma, mindful of her condition. "The house has been too quiet without you." Emma blinked in surprise. She'd only spent one night here before the infection. How could her absence have been noticed? "She made your room ready," Dr. Reeves said, guiding Emma toward the stairs. "And baked enough to feed an army, apparently." "Just oatmeal cookies and chicken enchiladas," Maria said, following them. "Healing food." The guest room, her room now, Emma supposed, had been transformed. A soft throw blanket in shades of teal and purple lay folded at the foot of the bed. A small bookshelf had appeared, stocked with young adult novels and classics. On the nightstand, a vase of fresh daisies brightened the space. "Maria," Emma breathed. "You didn't have to do all this. Every bedroom should feel like a sanctuary," Maria replied simply, "especially when you're healing." Dr. Reeves cleared his throat. "I'll set up the IV. Maria, could you bring up some juice and her medication?" Once they were alone, Dr. Reeves expertly arranged the IV stand beside Emma's bed. His movements were efficient but gentle as he connected the tubing. "The social worker will visit tomorrow," he said, his tone carefully neutral. "Standard procedure. When there's a change in guardianship," Emma tensed. "What will happen? They'll assess your situation, ask you some questions." He finished with the IV and sat on the edge of the bed. "Emma, you should know that I've applied for temporary medical guardianship. Given your condition and your father's situation, I believe it's in your best interest." "What does that mean exactly?" Emma asked, picking at a loose thread on the blanket. "It means I would be legally responsible for your medical decisions until you turn 18. He hesitated. "Your father has indicated he won't contest it." "Of course he wouldn't." Emma swallowed hard against the lump forming in her throat. "As for living arrangements," Dr. Reeves continued carefully, "that's ultimately your decision. But you're welcome to stay here as long as you need." "Why?" The question burst from Emma before she could stop it. "Why are you doing all this for me? And don't say it's the right thing to do. People don't upend their lives for strangers just because it's right." Dr. Reeves was silent for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the IV drip. "Because when I look at you," he said finally, "I see someone who deserves better than what life has given her. And because helping you makes me feel less hollow." The raw honesty stunned Emma into silence. "I'll let you rest," Dr. Reeves said, standing abruptly. "Call if you need anything." After he left, Emma stared at the ceiling, trying to process everything. In the span of a week, she'd lost her father and gained, what, a guardian? A benefactor? The lines were blurry and confused. Despite her exhaustion, sleep eluded her. Around midnight, restlessness drove her from bed. Carefully navigating with her IV pole, Emma ventured into the hallway. The house was quiet, except for the distant hum of the heating system. She found herself drawn to the door at the end of the hall, the one she'd glimpsed Dr. Reeves entering that first night. James's room. She hesitated, hand on the doorknob, knowing she was crossing a boundary. Curiosity won. The door opened silently to reveal the bedroom frozen in time. Moonlight spilled across soccer trophies, science fair ribbons, and framed Marvel posters, a twin bed with a blue comforter, a desk with textbooks still open, pencils arranged neatly beside them. What struck Emma most was how lived in it felt, as if James had just stepped out and might return any moment. This wasn't a shrine or a museum. It was a 12-year-old boy's room, preserved by a father who couldn't bear to let go. On the desk sat a framed photo of James with Dr. Reeves, both in hiking gear on what looked like a mountain trail. The resemblance between them was striking. Same eyes, same smile. Beside it, a small wooden box caught Emma's attention. She opened it carefully to find a collection of small car models, meticulously painted. He loved Matchbox cars. Emma whirled around, nearly dislodging her IV. Dr. Reeves stood in the doorway, wearing sweatpants and a faded Harvard t-shirt. "I'm sorry," Emma stammered. "I shouldn't be in here." Instead of anger, his face showed only weariness. "It's all right." He entered the room, picking up one of the small cars, a red Ferrari. He collected them since he was 4, said he was going to design cars when he grew up. Emma carefully replaced the box. "He looks like you," she said, nodding toward the photo. "Everyone said so." Dr. Reeves smiled faintly. "But he had his mother's spirit. Fearless, creative. I was always the cautious one." "What was she like?" Emma asked, settling carefully on the edge of the bed as her energy waned. Dr. Reeves seemed surprised by the question. "Catherine?" She was luminous, an art history professor, brilliant, passionate about everything. She could spend hours looking at a single painting, seeing details no one else noticed. "My mom was like that with books," Emma offered. "She'd read the same ones over and over, finding new meanings each time." Dr. Reeves nodded, understanding. "You miss her?" "Every day," Emma admitted. "It's been 3 years, but sometimes I still turn to tell her something before remembering she's gone. That never stops," Dr. Reeves said quietly. 5 years later, I still reach for Catherine in bed sometimes, still check my phone for texts. From James. The confession, so honest, so vulnerable, broke something open in Emma. "My dad stopped talking about my mom after he remarried," she said, tears welling, like she never existed, like my memories of her were inconvenient. Dr. Reeves sat beside her on the bed, careful not to disturb her IV. "That's not right," he said simply. "Your memories are precious." "Why did you keep this room the same?" Emma asked. "Most people pack everything away. I tried," he admitted. "About a year after, Got as far as taking the posters down before I had a panic attack. He glanced around the room. This is the only place in the house where I feel close to them, where I remember I was once more than just a surgeon. Emma nodded, understanding perfectly. My mom had this garden. After she died, I'd sit there when I missed her. Then Dad sold the house and I lost that too. Silence settled between them, not uncomfortable, but heavy with shared grief. Maria told me about you, Emma said finally. About before the accident. She said you were different, happier. Dr. Reeves's expression tightened. Maria talks too much. She cares about you, Emma countered. We all need someone who remembers who we were before. Dr. Reeves looked at her, really looked at her, as if seeing her clearly for the first time. You're very wise for 17. Illness ages you, Emma said with a shrug. So does loss. Dr. Reeves nodded, a silent acknowledgement of their shared experience. You should get back to bed. Your antibiotics. I know, Emma sighed, standing, carefully. Doctor's orders. At the door she paused. Thank you. For letting me see his room. For telling me about them. Thank you for asking, Dr. Reeves replied softly. No one does anymore. As Emma settled back into her bed, she realized something had shifted between them. The careful walls Dr. Reeves maintained had cracked, just a little, and her own defenses, built up over years of disappointment, had weakened as well. She wasn't ready to trust him completely. Trust was a luxury she couldn't afford after her father's betrayal. But for the first time since her mother died, Emma felt seen, not as a burden or a problem to solve, but as a person worth knowing. It was a start. 2 weeks passed in a blur of recovery, medical checkups, and adjusting to a new normal. The social worker, a kind but thorough woman named Ms. Patel, had visited twice, asking Emma detailed questions about her living situation, her relationship with Dr. Reeves, and her wishes moving forward. And you feel safe here? Ms. Patel had asked during their first meeting, her pen poised over her notepad. Safer than I've felt in years, Emma had answered honestly. The temporary medical guardianship was approved with surprising speed, helped by Dr. Reeves's standing in the community and Emma's father's signed statement relinquishing his rights. The court date for a more permanent arrangement would come after Emma's 18th birthday in 3 months. The infection had cleared, but Emma's recovery from surgery required continued rest. Being homebound meant missing school, a familiar frustration after years of absences due to illness. I'm going to fail the semester, Emma worried aloud one evening at dinner. It was a small milestone. The first meal she'd felt strong enough to eat in the dining room instead of her bedroom. Dr. Reeves looked up from his plate. I spoke with your school counselor yesterday. We've arranged for you to continue your studies remotely until you're cleared to return. Emma stared at him. You did? Your education is important, he said simply. I picked up your assignments today. He nodded toward a stack of folders on the sideboard. Your teachers were quite concerned about you. Apparently, you're one of their top students. Emma blushed, unused to having her academic achievements acknowledged. Her father had always viewed school as secondary to her health issues, a distraction rather than a priority. I like school, she admitted, when I can actually go. What subjects interest you most? Dr. Reeves asked, serving himself another, helping of Maria's roasted vegetables. Science? Literature? Emma hesitated. And biology, especially human anatomy. I thought maybe someday I could. It's stupid. No dream is stupid, Dr. Reeves countered. What were you going to say? I thought maybe I could go into medicine, Emma said quickly. Not necessarily a doctor, but something in healthcare. To help people like me. Dr. Reeves's expression brightened with genuine interest. That's a worthy goal. Any particular specialty? Pediatric nephrology, Emma answered without hesitation. Kidney disease in children is underdiagnosed and treatments are improving all the time. She stopped abruptly, embarrassed by her enthusiasm. Instead of dismissing her interest, Dr. Reeves leaned forward. I have some colleagues in that field. When you're feeling stronger, perhaps you'd like to meet them. Really? Emma couldn't keep the excitement from her voice. Really, Dr. Reeves confirmed. Talent should be nurtured. The following days established a new routine. Mornings were for schoolwork, with Emma set up at a desk in the sunroom overlooking the garden. Dr. Reeves had arranged for a laptop and textbooks, even installing a printer so she could submit assignments. To Emma's surprise, Dr. Reeves took a keen interest in her studies. He'd check her progress when he came home from the hospital, discussing her essays on The Great Gatsby, or helping explain particularly difficult calculus problems. You don't have to do this, Emma told him one evening as he reviewed her lab. Report on cell division. I'm sure you have more important things to do. More important than education? Dr. Reeves raised an eyebrow. Doubtful. One rainy afternoon, Emma was struggling with a physics assignment when Dr. Reeves arrived home early, carrying a large cardboard box. Package for you, he announced, setting it on the coffee table. Emma looked up in confusion. For me? I didn't order anything. I did, Dr. Reeves admitted. Open it. Inside, Emma found a microscope. Not a toy, but a professional-grade instrument with multiple objectives and a digital camera attachment. Your biology teacher mentioned your interest in cellular structures, Dr. Reeves explained as Emma stared at the gift in disbelief. I thought this might help with your independent study project. This is too much, Emma protested, even as her fingers reverently traced the gleaming metal. It must have cost. Consider it an investment in your future, Dr. Reeves interrupted. Besides, I had an ulterior motive. I thought perhaps you might like to examine some prepared slides I've had in storage since medical school. They're gathering dust in my study. That evening, they sat side by side at the dining room table, converted into a makeshift laboratory. Dr. Reeves pulled out a wooden box containing dozens of labeled slides, cross-sections of organs, tissue, samples, even some pathology specimens. This one shows the cellular structure of nephrons, he explained, carefully placing a slide under the microscope. The key filtering units of the kidney. Emma peered through the eyepiece, adjusting the focus until the stained cells came into sharp relief. It's beautiful, she breathed. Dr. Reeves smiled, a genuine expression that reached his eyes. That's exactly what I thought the first time I saw it. Hours passed as they moved from slide to slide, Dr. Reeves explaining each specimen with the patience and enthusiasm of a born teacher. Emma absorbed every word, asking questions that revealed her natural aptitude for the subject. You have a good mind for medicine, Dr. Reeves observed as they finally packed away the microscope around midnight. Sharp, curious, but also intuitive. Emma ducked her head, unused to such praise. I've spent so much time as a patient. I guess I paid attention. Experience is a powerful teacher, Dr. Reeves agreed, though a difficult one. The following week brought Emma's first major test, an AP biology exam her teacher had arranged for her to take remotely. She studied frantically, determined to prove herself despite her absence from class. You'll do fine, Dr. Reeves assured her the night before. You know the material better than most medical students I've taught. Still, Emma barely slept, anxiety gnawing at her. What if she failed? What if Dr. Reeves realized she wasn't worth all this effort? The test itself was grueling. 3 hours of complex questions about cellular respiration, genetics, and evolutionary biology. When Emma finally submitted her answers, she felt drained, but cautiously optimistic. 2 days later, her teacher emailed her score, 98%. Emma stared at the screen in disbelief, then printed the results with trembling hands. She placed the paper on the kitchen counter where Dr. Reeves would see it when he came home, then retreated to her room, suddenly shy about her achievement. Hours later, a knock at her door pulled her from the novel she'd been reading. Come in, she called. Dr. Reeves entered, holding her test results. His expression was serious, almost stern. I saw your biology score, he said. Emma's stomach dropped. Was he disappointed? Had she somehow misunderstood the grading scale? I've been thinking, he continued, his tone measured. This level of achievement deserves recognition. He stepped aside, revealing Maria behind him holding a small cake with "Congratulations, Genius," written in blue icing. We're proud of you, Dr. Reeves said simply as Maria beamed beside him. Emma stared at them, speechless. When was the last time anyone had celebrated her accomplishments? Her mother would have once. But since her death, Emma's achievements had gone largely unnoticed, overshadowed by her health struggles. I don't know what to say, she managed finally. Say you'll share this cake with us, Maria suggested. I made it sugar-free, kidney-friendly, but still delicious. Promise. That night, seated around the kitchen table with cake and tea, Emma felt something she hadn't experienced in years, the simple joy of being celebrated, of having people who noticed her efforts and cared about her success. To Emma, Dr. Reeves said, raising his teacup in a toast. Future medical pioneer. To family, Maria added softly. The word hung in the air between them, neither confirmed nor denied. But as Emma looked at these two people who had taken her in, who had seen her potential when her own father couldn't, she allowed herself to imagine, just for a moment, that perhaps family wasn't only about blood. Perhaps it could also be built. One microscope slide and one cake at a time. Emma woke on the morning of her 18th birthday to find a small wrapped package outside her bedroom door. The gift was neatly wrapped in silver paper, with a small card attached. Happy birthday. Breakfast when you're ready. Mr. She smiled at Dr. Reeves's formal initials. Despite 2 months of living under his roof, he maintained certain boundaries. Small reminders that their arrangement, however comfortable, had begun as a medical necessity rather than choice. Carefully unwrapping the package, Emma found a leather-bound journal with her initials embossed in the corner. Inside, a note in Dr. Reeves' precise handwriting. For your observations and ideas, every scientist needs one. The thoughtfulness of the gift brought unexpected tears to her eyes. She'd mentioned once, in passing, that her mother had kept journals, documenting everything from garden plantings to family memories. Emma had always meant to start one, but never had. Downstairs, she found Maria bustling around the kitchen, the island covered with baking ingredients. Feliz cumpleaños, cariño, Maria exclaimed, enveloping Emma in a flour-dusted hug. 18! Such a special day. Thank you, Emma said, genuinely touched by the woman's enthusiasm. You don't have to go to any trouble. Nonsense, Maria interrupted. Birthdays must be celebrated properly. Dr. Reeves had an early surgery but said to tell you he'll be home by 6 for dinner. Emma felt a flutter of warmth that he'd remembered and made plans to be home early. Her father had often worked late on her birthday, claiming surgical schedules couldn't be adjusted for personal matters. Can I help with anything? Emma offered, gesturing to the baking chaos. You can help by enjoying your day, Maria insisted. I'm making tres leches cake. Your favorite, yes? And Dr. Reeves ordered dinner from that Italian place you liked. The day passed pleasantly. Emma received birthday wishes from her teachers via email, along with a handmade card from Ms. Patel, the social worker who had become something of an ally. By late afternoon, she found herself actually looking forward to the small celebration, a stark contrast to last year, when her birthday had passed almost unacknowledged in her father's house. At 5:30, Emma changed into a simple blue dress she'd found in a box of clothes Maria had mysteriously produced. My nieces, she outgrew them, but they're nearly new. She was brushing her hair when her phone buzzed with a text. Her heart skipped when she saw the sender, Dad. For a moment, hope flared. He'd remembered her birthday after all. Maybe he regretted his actions, wanted to make amends. She opened the message with trembling fingers. Emma, paperwork finalized today. Legal guardianship transferred to Dr. Reeves until you're 18. After that, you're on your own. Left some of your things in storage unit number 247 at City Storage on Maple. Code 3479. Don't contact us again. We've moved on. So should you. Emma sat heavily, on the edge of her bed, the phone slipping from her numb fingers. 3 months of silence, and this was what he had to say? No, happy birthday. No, I'm sorry. Not even a perfunctory, best wishes. Just cold logistics and a final dismissal. She didn't realize she was crying until tears splashed onto her hands, clenched tightly in her lap. A knock at the door startled her. Emma? Dr. Reeves called. Maria says dinner's ready whenever you are. Emma hastily wiped her tears, but not quickly enough. When she opened the door, Dr. Reeves's smile faded, replaced by concern. What's wrong? He asked. Emma wordlessly handed him her phone. He read the message, his expression darkening with each line. I'm sorry, he said finally, returning the phone. That's unforgivable. Emma shrugged, attempting nonchalance despite the pain lancing through her. At least now I know where I stand. With him, Dr. Reeves corrected gently. You know where you stand with him. Not with everyone. She nodded, unable to meet his eyes for fear of breaking down completely. I was going to wait until after dinner, Dr. Reeves said after a moment, but perhaps now is better. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. Happy birthday, Emma. She opened it with unsteady hands to find a birthday card. Not a generic store-bought one, but a handmade card with a watercolor painting of a garden on the front. Inside was a handwritten note. Emma, 18 years marks the beginning of adulthood, but not the end of needing a home base. Whether you choose college, work, or another path, know that this house remains your home for as long as you need or want it. Your room will always be yours, your place at our table secure. The enclosed is to help with whatever dreams you decide to pursue. With admiration for your strength and intelligence, Michael Reeves. Attached was a bank card with her name on it. It's a trust fund, Dr. Reeves explained quietly, fully vested to you, for education, housing, medical expenses, whatever you need. Emma stared at him in disbelief. I can't accept this. You can, he countered. And I hope you will. It's not charity, Emma. It's investment in a future I believe in. Before Emma could respond, Maria called up the stairs. Están viniendo? The food is getting cold. We should go down, Dr. Reeves said. Maria's been cooking all day. Emma nodded, tucking the card and bank card into her pocket. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. Dinner was a warm affair, with Maria's delicious lasagna, garlic bread, and animated conversation. Emma managed to push aside her father's message, allowing herself to enjoy the genuine affection surrounding her. After dinner, Maria brought out the tres leches cake, decorated with fresh strawberries and 18 candles. Make a wish, cariño, Maria urged as she lit the candles. Emma closed her eyes, considering. What did she wish for now? Her old life was gone. Her father had made his position painfully clear. But here, in this once empty mansion now filled with unexpected warmth, she'd found something she'd thought lost forever. She opened her eyes and blew out the candles in one breath. What did you wish for? Maria asked with a wink. Emma smiled, glancing between Maria and Dr. Reeves. If I tell you, it won't come true. Later that night, as Emma prepared for bed, she heard a gentle knock. Dr. Reeves stood in the hallway, holding a small package. One more thing, he said. This arrived today. He handed her the package, postmarked from Arizona. Inside was a silver locket and a birthday card signed by her grandmother, her father's mother, who lived in a memory care facility. Your mother wanted you to have this on your 18th birthday, the shaky handwriting read. I kept it safe. Remember, you are loved. The locket contained a tiny photo of Emma as a baby, cradled in her mother's arms, her father standing proudly beside them. A family, once. Are you all right? Dr. Reeves asked as Emma stared at the photo. Yes, she said, surprising herself with the truth of it. I am. As Dr. Reeves wished her good night, Emma realized something important. Her father's text hadn't broken her because she was already rebuilding her life with people who saw her value. The pain was there, but it no longer defined her. For the first time in years, Emma fell asleep on her birthday, feeling not just older, but stronger. The week after Emma's birthday, Dr. Reeves arrived home with an unexpected guest, a trim woman, in her 50s with salt and pepper hair and a leather briefcase. Emma, this is Vivian Mendez, he introduced as Emma looked up from her calculus homework. She's my attorney. Nice to meet you, Emma said, instantly wary. Lawyers usually meant complications. You as well, Emma, Ms. Mendez replied with a warm smile that softened her professional demeanor. Michael has told me a lot about you. They settled in the study, where Ms. Mendez spread several documents across the desk. Emma sat stiffly, unsure of her role in this meeting. Since you're now 18, Dr. Reeves began, the temporary guardianship has automatically terminated. You're legally an adult. Emma nodded, a flutter of anxiety rising in her chest. Was this the preamble to asking her to leave? She'd known this arrangement couldn't last forever, but she'd hoped for more time. However, he continued, your medical situation remains complex. Your most recent labs show improvement, but you'll need ongoing nephrology care, possibly for life. I know, Emma said quietly. Her kidney function had stabilized but remained compromised. Without insurance, her medications alone would cost thousands monthly. I've asked Vivian to help us establish a more permanent arrangement, Dr. Reeves explained. If you're amenable, Ms. Mendez took over, her tone professional but kind. We've drafted several options for your consideration, Emma. First, Dr. Reeves would like to continue providing health insurance coverage for you through his family plan. Can he do that? Emma asked, surprised. I'm not, she stopped, unable to finish the sentence. Not family. Legally, yes, Ms. Mendez confirmed. There's precedent for non-biological dependent adults in similar situations. We've already filed the paperwork, pending your approval. Second, she continued, the trust fund Dr. Reeves established for you on your birthday would be formally structured to cover your educational expenses, including college tuition, housing, books, and related costs. Emma looked at Dr. Reeves in disbelief. College tuition? That's too much. It's already done, he said simply. The funds are irrevocable. Whether you stay here or choose another path, your education is secure. Third, Ms. Mendez said, sliding another document forward. This stipulates your right to reside here for as long as you wish, rent-free, with all household expenses covered. Emma's head spun with the implications. Why would you do all this? She asked Dr. Reeves directly. I'm an adult now. You fulfilled your obligation. It was never about obligation, Emma, he replied, his voice gentle but firm. Not for a long time. Ms. Mendez cleared her throat. There's one more option to consider, though it's entirely your choice. She withdrew a final document from her briefcase. Adult adoption. Emma stared at the paper, certain she'd misheard. What? It's uncommon, but not unheard of, Ms. Mendez explained. Adult adoption creates a legal parent-child relationship, with inheritance rights and family recognition. Unlike minor adoption, it requires only the consent of the adopting parent and the adult adoptee. Emma couldn't speak, her throat tight with emotion. You don't need to decide anything today, Dr. Reeves assured her quickly. These are just options, Emma. Your future is yours to determine. I'll leave these for you to review, Ms. Mendez said, gathering her briefcase. Take all the time you need. After the lawyer left, silence stretched between Emma and Dr. Reeves. Why? Emma finally managed. Why offer adoption? You barely know me. Dr. Reeves seemed to choose his words carefully. I know that you're brilliant, resilient, and kinder than most people twice your age. I know that you deserve stability and support. And I know that having you in this house has made it feel like a home again for the first time in 5 years. He paused, gathering himself. I'm not trying to replace your father, Emma, or expecting you to replace James, but families can be chosen, not just born into, and I would be honored to be your family, in whatever way you're comfortable with. Emma stared at the documents spread across the desk, each representing a level of commitment she'd never expected to receive again after her mother died. Can I think about it? She asked, her voice small. Of course, Dr. Reeves said. There's no deadline, no pressure, whatever. You decide. Nothing changes about your place here. That night, Emma lay awake, the weight of decision heavy on her mind. Adult adoption seemed so permanent, so formal. Did she want that? Did she want to legally tie herself to Dr. Reeves, to Michael, after her own father had discarded her so easily? She thought about the past few months, the quiet mornings discussing literature over breakfast, the impromptu science lessons that often stretched late into the evening, the way Maria fussed over her diet, making sure every meal supported her kidney health, the sense of being not just tolerated, but valued. For 3 years after her mother's death, Emma had existed on the periphery of her father's new life, a reminder of his past that he gradually pushed away until she was completely excised. Here, she wasn't peripheral. She was central, her needs and interests taken seriously, her presence actively welcomed. Morning found Emma still undecided but clearer about what mattered to her. She found Dr. Reeves in the kitchen, making coffee before his early hospital shift. I've been thinking about the legal options, she began hesitantly. He looked up, careful to keep his expression neutral. Yes, the health insurance and education trust. I accept those, Emma said. They're practical, and I'd be foolish to refuse. Dr. Reeves nodded, waiting for her to continue. As for the adoption, Emma took a deep breath. I'm not ready to decide that yet. It feels like a big step. Of course, he said immediately. There's no rush, but, Emma continued, I'd like to stay, here I mean, if that's still okay. Relief and something like joy crossed Dr. Reeves's face. More than okay, he assured her. This is your home for as long as you want it to be. The word home settled around Emma like a warm blanket. Not a house, not temporary housing, but home. I have one condition, she said, surprising herself with her boldness. Dr. Reeves raised an eyebrow. Which is? Stop calling yourself Dr. Reeves around the house, Emma said. If I'm staying, I can't keep calling you by your title. It's too formal. He smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his usually serious face. What would you prefer? Emma considered. Michael, she decided. Just Michael. Michael it is, he agreed, extending his hand as if to seal the deal. Emma ignored the hand and hugged him instead. Their first real embrace. After a moment of surprise, his arms came around her, careful but secure. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. You're welcome, he replied, his voice slightly rough. Emma, when Ms. Patel, the social worker, visited the following week. For a final check-in, She found Emma comfortably ensconced in the sunroom, surrounded by college brochures. "You seem settled," Ms. Patel observed. "How are things going?" Emma looked up with a smile. "Good. Really good, actually. And your relationship with Dr. Reeves?" Emma considered the question carefully. "We're figuring it out," she said finally. "It's not traditional, but it works for us." Ms. Patel nodded, making a note in her file. "That's what matters in the end. Not what you call it, but whether it works." As the social worker left, Emma returned to her college research, a decision already forming in her mind. The local university had an excellent pre-med program, close enough to commute from home. Home. The word still felt new in her mind, but increasingly right. Not a temporary shelter from the storm of her father's rejection, but a place to grow roots, to build a future, a place where she belonged. The headache began on a Tuesday morning, a dull throb behind Emma's eyes that she attributed to staying up late finishing college applications. By Wednesday, it had intensified, accompanied by a persistent nausea that made breakfast impossible. "You're pale," Maria observed, pressing a cool hand to Emma's forehead. "No fever, but something's not right." "I'm fine," Emma insisted, gathering her books for her remote physics class. "Just tired." But by afternoon, the room was spinning whenever she stood, and the pain in her lower back, a familiar warning sign, had become impossible to ignore. Emma stared at her phone, debating whether to call Michael. He was in surgery all day. Complex spinal reconstruction that he'd been preparing for weeks. The last thing he needed was to worry about her. Instead, she called Jackie, the nurse who had cared for her during her hospital stay, and had given Emma her personal number, just in case. "Back pain and headache?" Jackie's voice was instantly concerned. "Any changes in your urine? Swelling in your hands or feet?" Emma glanced down at her fingers, noticing for the first time how tight her rings felt. "Some swelling," she admitted, "and I haven't been to the bathroom much today." "Emma, listen to me," Jackie said firmly. "You need to come in right now. This could be serious kidney dysfunction. I'm calling Dr. Chen to meet you in the ER, but Michael is in surgery, I know. We won't interrupt him unless necessary, but you need to come in now. Can Maria drive you?" 30 minutes later, Emma was in an emergency room bay, watching as a nurse drew vials of blood from her arm. Dr. Chen, the nephrologist who had treated her infection, arrived quickly, her face serious as she reviewed Emma's symptoms. "We'll run a comprehensive metabolic panel and check your kidney function," she explained. "The swelling and decreased urination suggest fluid retention, which could indicate your kidneys aren't filtering properly." Emma nodded, fear clenching her stomach. She'd been doing so well, following her medication regimen meticulously, maintaining her kidney-friendly diet. Why was this happening now? The lab results confirmed Dr. Chen's concerns. Emma's creatinine levels were elevated, her glomerular filtration rate dangerously low, acute kidney injury superimposed on your chronic condition. Dr. Chen explained, "We need to admit you immediately for treatment." Emma's heart sank. She'd been hospitalized enough to know what came next. IV fluids, medication adjustments, possibly dialysis if things were really bad, days or weeks of confinement when she should be preparing for college interviews. "Does Dr. Reeves need to know?" she asked as they transferred her to a room in the nephrology ward. "He's in that big surgery today." Dr. Chen's expression softened. "Emma, you're his family now. Of course he needs to know." Family. The word still felt strange, both comforting and terrifying in its implications. In her experience, family could leave. Family could decide you were too much trouble. Hours passed in a blur of tests and treatments. The IV diuretics made Emma feel simultaneously cold and sweaty as her body released excess fluid. Nurses came and went, checking vital signs, adjusting medications. Maria arrived with Emma's overnight bag, her worried face a stark reminder of how serious the situation had become. "Michael is still in surgery," Maria reported. "They told him you're here, but that you're stable. He'll come as soon as he can." Emma nodded, guilt and relief warring within her. "I didn't want to worry him, Carino," Maria said gently. "Worrying about you is part of loving you. That's how family works." By evening, Emma's condition had stabilized somewhat, though Dr. Chen warned they weren't out of danger yet. "Your kidneys took a significant hit," she explained. "We need to be vigilant about monitoring your function over the next 48 hours. Emma was dozing fitfully when the door to her room opened around midnight. Michael entered, still in surgical scrubs, his face etched with exhaustion and concern. "Emma," he said, immediately moving to her bedside. "I came as soon as I could." "How are you feeling?" "Better," she lied, not wanting to add to his obvious distress. "You didn't have to rush. Dr. Chen says I'm stable." Michael checked her chart, his medical training overriding his emotional response. "Your numbers are improving, but still concerning," he observed. "Any pain?" "Some," Emma admitted. "Mostly just tired." He sat heavily in the chair beside her bed, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "I should have noticed something was wrong." "How could you?" Emma countered. "I didn't tell anyone. I thought it was just stress from college applications. Still, I'm your—" Michael stopped, seemingly unsure how to finish the sentence. "Guardian? Doctor?" Neither seemed adequate anymore. "You can't monitor me every minute," Emma said. "And you can't blame yourself when my body decides to malfunction. I've had kidney issues since I was 14. "I know," he sighed. "But I promised to take care of you." "And you are," Emma insisted. "Better than anyone ever has." Michael reached for her hand, careful of the IV line. "When they told me you were admitted right in the middle of surgery," he shook his head. "I've never been so scared and had to remain so focused at the same time." "I'm sorry," Emma whispered. "Don't apologize for being sick," Michael said firmly. "That's one rule in our house, remember? We don't apologize for things we can't control. Our house." The simple phrase warmed Emma despite her physical discomfort. "The patient came through fine," Michael added, anticipating her next question. "I finished the procedure before coming here. Some things can't be rushed, even in an emergency." "I'm glad," Emma said, genuinely relieved. "I wouldn't want someone else's outcome compromised because of me." Michael looked at her with something like wonder. "You're remarkable, you know that? Most people in your position would be thinking only of themselves." Emma shrugged, embarrassed by the praise. "I've been on the other side, the patient whose surgeon is distracted. It's terrifying." They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, the only sounds the steady beeping of monitors and the muffled hospital noises from the hallway. "I called Sal in some favors," Michael said eventually. "Dr. Patel is flying in from Mayo Clinic tomorrow to consult on your case." Emma's eyes widened. "The Dr. Patel? The one who pioneered that new kidney regeneration therapy?" Michael nodded. "I may have. Mentioned once or twice that I had a brilliant young ward with an interest in nephrology. He's eager to meet you." "Michael, you can't just call in world-famous specialists because I had a setback," Emma protested. "I can and I did," he replied, his tone leaving no room for argument. "You need the best care available, and that's Dr. Patel. But the cost is irrelevant," Michael finished. "Emma, please, let me do this for you." The intensity in his voice silenced her objections. This wasn't just her doctor being thorough, or her guardian fulfilling an obligation. This was something deeper, the fierce protectiveness of a parent for their child. "Okay," she agreed softly. "Thank you." Michael nodded, satisfied. "Now, you should rest. I'll be right here." "You should go home," Emma countered. "You just performed complex surgery for hours. You need sleep in a real bed, not that torture device they call a chair." "I'm not leaving you alone," he insisted. "I'm surrounded by medical professionals in a hospital you practically run," Emma pointed out. "I'm hardly alone." Their familiar pattern of stubborn care for each other lightened the gravity of the situation. After further negotiation, Michael agreed to go home for a few hours' sleep, with the promise to return at dawn. As he gathered his things to leave, Emma called after him. "Michael." He turned at the door. "Yes? Remember when Ms. Mendez came with those legal papers? The, adoption option?" Michael nodded, his expression carefully neutral. "I remember." "I've been thinking about it," Emma said, suddenly nervous. "If the offer still stands, I think I'd like to move forward with it. When I'm better, I mean." For a moment, Michael stood perfectly still, as if afraid any movement might shatter the moment. Then, a smile broke across his face. Not the restrained, professional smile he showed the world, but something raw and genuine. "The offer absolutely still stands," he said, voice rough with emotion. "And yes, we'll move forward when you're better." He left. Emma settled back against her pillows, a sense of peace stealing over her despite the discomfort of her body. For 3 years, she'd been gradually erased from her father's life, a burden to be minimized and eventually discarded. Now, she was being written into a new story, not as an obligation, but as a choice. The monitor beside her bed showed her heart rate, strong and steady, much like the newfound certainty in her heart. Emma's hospital stay stretched from days into a week as her kidneys slowly recovered. The consultation with Dr. Patel had been both terrifying and inspiring. Terrifying because the renowned specialist confirmed that Emma's kidney function was more compromised than previously believed. Inspiring because he'd spent an hour answering her questions about nephrology research and treatment innovations. "Smart girl," he'd commented to Michael afterward, unaware that Emma could hear through the partially open door. "Sharp mind. She asks better questions than most of my fellows." Michael's reply had filled her with unexpected warmth. "She's going to revolutionize the field someday. I'm just trying to keep her healthy enough to do it." On her 8th day in the hospital, Emma had an unexpected visitor. Ms. Chambers, her high school guidance counselor, arrived with a bouquet of yellow daisies and a folder of paperwork. "Thought you might be going stir-crazy," Ms. Chambers explained, setting the flowers on the windowsill. "I brought your transcript and some scholarship applications that might interest you." "Thank you," Emma said, genuinely touched by the gesture. Before her illness and her father's abandonment, she'd spent many hours in Ms. Chambers' office, discussing college possibilities. "How are you doing?" Ms. Chambers asked, settling into the visitor's chair. "Really doing, I mean," Emma considered the question. "Better than I expected, actually. Physically rough, but..." She gestured vaguely around the private hospital room with its flowers, cards, and the quilt Maria had brought from home. "I'm not alone this time." Ms. Chambers nodded, understanding the significance. "Dr. Reeves seems to be taking good care of you." "He is," Emma confirmed. "We're actually talking about adult adoption, after I'm discharged." "I'm glad," Ms. Chambers said with a smile. "You deserve stability, Emma. Especially after everything." Something in her tone made Emma pause. "What do you mean, everything?" Ms. Chambers' expression shifted to one of careful consideration. "How much do you know about your medical history before this year?" "What's there to know?" Emma replied, confused. "I got sick after Mom died. Dad took me to doctors. My kidneys were damaged from repeated infections." Ms. Chambers frowned. "Emma, your father didn't take you to doctors. Not until you collapsed at school." "What?" "No, that's not..." Emma's protest trailed off as doubt crept in. Her memories of that time were hazy, clouded by grief over her mother and her own physical suffering. "I was your counselor since freshman year," Ms. Chambers said gently. "I remember how many times you came to school feverish, in obvious pain. How many notes I sent home suggesting medical attention." Emma stared at her, memories rearranging themselves like puzzle pieces. "But my father said, he always said I was getting the best care." "Your mother ensured you had excellent care," Ms. Chambers corrected. "After she passed, your father missed appointments, delayed treatments. The school nurse documented everything. We nearly called Child Protective Services." "Why didn't you?" Emma asked, her voice barely audible. "Because you turned 16 and finally advocated for yourself. You started arranging your own medical appointments, taking buses to the clinic when needed." Ms. Chambers shook her head sadly. "You were so matter-of-fact about it, like it was normal for a teenager to manage their own serious health condition." Emma sat in stunned silence, processing this revelation. She remembered the bus rides, the clinic waiting rooms, the pharmacists who knew her by name, but she'd framed it as independence, not neglect. "I thought," she began, then stopped, unsure. "How to continue? You thought you were a burden," Ms. Chambers finished softly. "But Emma, your health issues were manageable with proper care. Your father chose not to provide that care. He was grieving," Emma said automatically, the defense of her father ingrained despite everything. "So were you," Ms. Chambers countered. "But you still showed up, did your schoolwork, managed your health as best you could. Grief doesn't excuse neglect." The conversation was interrupted by Michael's arrival. He stopped short in the doorway, sensing the tension in the room. "Ms. Chambers," he greeted the counselor politely. "I didn't realize Emma had a visitor. Just dropping off some scholarship information," she explained, standing to leave, "and checking on one of my favorite students." After she left, Michael turned to Emma, concern evident in his expression. "Everything okay? You look upset." Emma hesitated, then decided on honesty. "Ms. Chambers told me some things about my medical history, things I didn't know, or maybe didn't want to know." She explained what the counselor had shared, watching as Michael's expression shifted from concern to controlled anger. "Did you know?" Emma asked when she finished. "About my father's neglect?" Michael sat beside her bed, choosing his words carefully. I suspected, he admitted. Your medical records showed gaps in treatment, missed follow-ups. When I asked, you always had explanations. Transportation issues, scheduling conflicts. I believed what I needed to believe, Emma said quietly. That he was doing his best, that I was just too much work. You were never too much, Michael said firmly. Your condition was entirely manageable with proper care. The damage to your kidneys, a significant portion of it was preventable. The implication hit Emma like a physical blow. You mean I might not be dealing with all this if he'd just taken me to doctors regularly? Michael's silence was answer enough. Why didn't you tell me? Emma asked, hurt creeping into her voice. It wasn't my place, Michael replied. Not initially. And later, when it might have been. I didn't want to add to your pain. You were already processing his abandonment. Emma nodded, understanding his reasoning even as she struggled with the revelation. All this time, I thought it was my fault, that my illnesses were too burdensome, too expensive. Emma, Michael said, his voice gentle but firm. What happened to you was medical neglect. It wasn't your fault. It was never your fault. The words broke something open inside her, a dam of guilt and self-blame she'd been carrying for years. Tears came in a sudden rush, 3 years of bottled emotion finally finding release. Michael moved to sit on the edge of the bed, holding her as she sobbed. Unlike her father's awkward, impatient comforting, Michael simply provided steady presence, letting her cry without trying to hurry the process or make it more comfortable for himself. I'm getting your shirt all wet, Emma hiccuped eventually. It'll dry, Michael replied simply. When the storm passed, Emma felt drained, but somehow lighter, as if a weight she hadn't fully acknowledged had been lifted. What happens now? She asked, wiping her eyes. That depends on you, Michael said. If you wanted to pursue legal action— No, Emma interrupted firmly. I don't want to drag this through courts or make public statements. I just want to move forward. Michael nodded, respecting her decision. Then we move forward. Focus on your health, your education, your future. And the adoption? Emma asked hesitantly. If you still want that, Michael confirmed. This doesn't change anything from my perspective. Emma looked at him, this man who had stepped into her life by chance and chosen to stay by choice, who had given her not just medical care, but a home, stability, and now, painful, but necessary truth. I still want it, she said with certainty, more than ever. As Michael smiled, Emma realized that sometimes family was less about shared blood and more about shared truth, the willingness to see each other clearly, pain and all, and stay anyway. 3 months after Emma's hospitalization, the first snow of December transformed the landscape outside their home. Emma stood at her bedroom window, watching fat snowflakes drift down to blanket the garden below. Her recovery had been slower than she'd hoped, but steadier this time, with no further setbacks. A knock at her door pulled her from her reverie. Michael stood in the doorway, bundled in a heavy sweater and holding a cardboard box labeled Xmas Decor in faded marker. Found these in the attic, he said, setting the box on her bed. Thought maybe it was time to use them again. Emma opened the box cautiously. Inside were carefully packed ornaments, strings of lights, and handmade decorations, some clearly crafted by a child's hands. James's Christmas treasures, preserved like everything else that had been his. Are you sure? She asked, understanding the significance of what Michael was suggesting. He nodded, something like determination mingling with the sadness in his eyes. 5 years is long enough for these to stay in boxes. Catherine would hate that I've been ignoring Christmas. In the month since her kidney relapse, something had shifted in their relationship. The adult adoption paperwork had been filed, moving through the legal system with the steady efficiency that characterized everything Michael did. But more significant than the legal process was the emotional one, the gradual dismantling of barriers between them. I don't know much about decorating for Christmas, Emma admitted. After Mom died, Dad didn't really bother. Neither do I, honestly, Michael confessed. Catherine was always the one who made holidays special. But I think we can figure it out, together. And so, on a snowy Saturday in early December, they transformed the house that had been in mourning for 5 years. Maria joined them, providing hot chocolate and childhood stories of Colombian Christmases filled with novenas and music. They started with the grand staircase, weaving pine garlands and tiny white lights around the banisters. In the living room, Michael assembled an artificial tree that reached nearly to the ceiling, while Emma and Maria unpacked ornaments, each one sparking a memory. James made this in kindergarten, Michael explained, holding up a salt dough star painted with uneven, green stripes. He was so proud of it, insisted it go at the very top of the tree. Emma handled each ornament with care, recognizing them as physical memories of the family Michael had lost. "We can put them away if it's too hard," she offered when she noticed him blinking rapidly at a small silver frame containing a photo of James on Santa's lap. "No," Michael said firmly. "It's time these came out again. James loved Christmas. He'd be furious that I've been ignoring it all these years." By afternoon, the house had been transformed. Lights twinkled from every window, garlands draped mantels and doorways, and the massive tree stood fully decorated in front of the living room window, visible from the street outside. "Just one thing missing," Maria declared, producing a box of her own. Inside were dozens of handmade paper stars in vibrant colors. "In Colombia, we hang these for Las Velitas, the Little Candles Day, the beginning of the Christmas season." Together, they hung the colorful stars throughout the house, the bright colors a striking contrast to the previously subdued decor. When they finished, the three of them stood in the foyer, admiring their work as twilight fell outside, making the lights shine even brighter. "It's beautiful," Emma said softly. "It's alive again," Michael corrected, something like peace settling over his features, the house, and maybe us too. That evening, as they sat in the glow of the Christmas tree enjoying Maria's homemade tamales, the doorbell rang. Michael opened it to find a courier with a special delivery envelope. "What is it?" Emma asked as he returned to the living room, the envelope in hand. "It's for you, actually," Michael said, passing it to her. "From Dartmouth College." Emma's hands trembled as she opened the envelope. Inside was an official letter on heavy paper with the college's emblem. "Dear Ms. Wilson," she read aloud, voice shaking slightly, "we are pleased to inform you of your acceptance to Dartmouth College's early decision program with a full academic scholarship." Her voice trailed off as the implications sank in. Dartmouth, her dream school, with its renowned pre-med program and research opportunities in nephrology, a full scholarship that would complement the trust fund Michael had established for her. "Education. You did it," Michael said, pride evident in his voice, "though I'm not surprised. Your application was exceptional." "You read my application?" Emma asked, surprised. "You asked me to proofread it, remember?" Michael reminded her with a smile. "All those late nights at the dining room table?" Emma nodded, memory returning. In the blur of recovery and college preparation, she'd forgotten how Michael had sat with her for hours, helping refine her essays without ever taking over her voice. "Dartmouth," she repeated, still processing. "That's in New Hampshire. It's far." Something like uncertainty crossed Michael's face. "About a 5-hour drive. Not too bad for weekend visits." "You'd want me to come back on weekends?" Emma asked. "Only if you want to," Michael said quickly. "College is about independence, finding your own path, but this will always be your home, Emma. Wherever you go, whatever you do." Home. The word settled around her like the Christmas lights, warm and secure. Maria broke the emotional moment by producing a bottle of sparkling cider from the kitchen. "Esto merece una celebración," she declared, pouring 3 glasses. To Emma, our scholar. They toasted her acceptance, making plans for campus visits in the spring. As the evening wound down, Emma found herself sitting beside Michael on the couch, both of them gazing at the twinkling Christmas tree. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" Michael asked. "You earned that acceptance all on your own." "Not just for that," Emma clarified. "For all of it. For taking me in when you didn't have to. For fighting for me when my own father wouldn't. For making space in your life when it would have been easier not to." Michael was silent for a moment, considering her words. "You know," he said finally, "for years after the accident, I was just existing, going through the motions, being Dr. Reeves the surgeon, but not really living." He gestured around at the decorated house. "I couldn't even bring myself to acknowledge Christmas, let alone celebrate it. Then you arrived and suddenly," he paused, searching for the right words. "Suddenly I had a reason to come home again, to be more than just a doctor. I'm glad," Emma said softly, "that it wasn't just one-sided, not even close." Michael assured her. "When I offered to help you, I never imagined how much you would help me in return." As they sat in comfortable silence, Emma realized something important. The adoption papers making their way through the legal system weren't creating a family. They were simply recognizing one that had already formed, gradually and naturally, through shared meals and late-night conversations, through medical crises and academic triumphs. Outside, snow continued to fall, blanketing the world in quiet white. Inside, light and warmth pushed back the darkness that had filled the house for too long, not erasing the past, but making space for something new to grow alongside it. "Merry Christmas, Michael," Emma said, leaning her head against his shoulder. "Merry Christmas, Emma," he replied, his arm coming around her in a gesture that felt both protective and proud, the first of many. The promise in those words, of continuity, of permanence, was perhaps the greatest gift of all. The winter thawed into spring, bringing college preparations and a new sense of purpose to Emma's life. Her health had stabilized with the consistent care and reduced stress of her new home environment. Though she still required medication and monitoring, the specter of kidney failure had receded to a manageable concern rather than an imminent threat. One evening in April, Michael arrived home later than usual, his expression animated in a way Emma had come to recognize as his big idea face. She'd seen it before when he tackled particularly challenging surgical cases or devised innovative treatment protocols. "You look like you're plotting something," Emma observed as they sat down to dinner, Maria's homemade paella steaming on their plates. "Perceptive as always," Michael acknowledged with a smile. "I've been in meetings all afternoon with the hospital board and a few private donors." "About what?" Emma asked, curious. Michael set down his fork, giving her his full attention. "I'm establishing a foundation," he announced, "for teens with serious medical conditions who lack adequate family support." Emma stared at him, understanding immediately the inspiration behind this venture. "Because of me?" "Partly," Michael admitted. "Your situation made me realize how many young people might be falling through the cracks. Teens with chronic conditions whose families can't or won't provide proper care, or who abandon them entirely," Emma added quietly. "Exactly," Michael nodded. "The foundation would provide several services: medical case management, transitional housing for those aging out of pediatric care, educational support, and eventually, scholarship opportunities." As he outlined his vision, Emma felt a complex mix of emotions: pride in Michael's compassion, sadness for others in situations similar to hers, and a strange sense of purpose, that her painful experience might somehow help others. "What will you call it?" she asked when he finished explaining. "I was hoping you might help with that," Michael replied, "since you were the catalyst." Emma considered for a moment. "What about the Bridge Foundation? Because it's about helping people cross from one stage of life to another, from isolation to support." Michael's face lit up. "That's perfect. The Bridge Foundation, supporting teens through medical transitions. I'd like to help," Emma said impulsively. "Not just with the name, but with the actual work." "I was hoping you'd say that," Michael admitted. "Your perspective would be invaluable. Plus, it would look excellent on your medical school applications down the road." Emma rolled her eyes at his practical addition, but smiled nonetheless. "Always thinking ahead, aren't you? Someone has to," he teased back. The following weeks were a flurry of activity as the foundation moved from concept to reality. Michael's reputation and connections accelerated the process, with the hospital board providing office space and administrative support. Emma found herself included in planning meetings, her input taken seriously despite her age. "We need to address psychological support as well as medical," she pointed out during one session with the foundation's newly formed advisory board. "The emotional impact of medical abandonment is as damaging as the physical neglect." The board, members, physicians, social workers, and philanthropists nodded in agreement, one of them making notes. Emma still found it surprising when adults listened to her, valued her opinion. In her father's home, she'd been an inconvenience to be managed. Here, she was a voice worth hearing. On a warm Saturday in May, Emma was helping Michael sort through foundation paperwork in his home office when the doorbell rang. Maria was out shopping, so Emma went to answer it. A reporter from the local news station stood on the porch, notebook in hand. "Hi there," she said brightly. "I'm Lydia Chen from Channel 8 News. Is Dr. Reeves available? We're doing a piece on his new foundation for medically vulnerable teens." Michael appeared behind Emma, having heard the exchange. "I didn't realize we had an interview scheduled," he said, his tone polite but cautious. "We're doing a series on local healthcare innovations. the reporter explained. Your foundation caught our attention, especially given your prominence in the surgical community. The human interest angle is compelling. A surgeon who lost his family now helping vulnerable teens. Emma felt Michael tense beside her at the mention of his family, but his professional mask remained in place. I'd be happy to provide information about the foundation, he said carefully, but I prefer to keep the focus on the work, not on my personal history. The interview proceeded in the living room, with Michael explaining the foundation's mission and services. Emma sat quietly nearby, listening as he outlined their plans for medical case management and educational support. And what inspired this particular focus? The reporter asked, her keen gaze moving between Michael and Emma. There are many worthy causes in healthcare. Michael hesitated, clearly reluctant to share too much of their personal story. Emma made a split-second decision and spoke up. Medical challenges are difficult enough with family support, she said. Without it, they can be impossible. Dr. Reeves recognized a gap in services for older teens who don't have adequate family advocates. The reporter's attention shifted fully to Emma. And you are Emma Wilson, she replied. I'm Dr. Reeves's daughter. The words came naturally now. Months after the adoption had been finalized, I've been helping with the foundation's development. His daughter, the reporter repeated, glancing between them with obvious curiosity about their different surnames. And you have personal experience with these issues? Before Emma could answer, Michael interjected smoothly. Emma brings valuable perspective to our work, but our focus today is on the foundation's services, not individual stories. The reporter nodded, accepting the boundary. Of course. Tell me about your first initiatives. As the interview continued, Emma noticed the reporter's gaze returning to her occasionally, questions clearly forming. When the formal questioning ended and they walked her to the door, she turned to Emma one last time. If you ever want to share your story, she said quietly, offering a business card. It could help others in similar situations know they're not alone. Emma accepted the card reflexively. Though she had no intention of becoming a public figure in the foundation's narrative, her story was her own, to share or keep private as she chose. After the reporter left, Michael turned to Emma with a mixture of concern and pride. You didn't have to identify yourself as part of this, he said. I wanted to protect your privacy. I know, Emma assured him, but I'm proud of what we're building. And I meant what I said. I am your daughter. Legally, officially, and in all the ways that matter. Michael's expression softened. Yes, you are. The news segment aired the following week, focusing primarily on the foundation's mission and services. But the reporter had included a brief mention of Emma, Dr. Reeves's recently adopted daughter, who brings personal insight to the foundation's work, alongside a photo of them together reviewing foundation materials. The response was immediate and unexpected. The foundation's newly established email received dozens of messages, from medical professionals wanting to volunteer services, from donors offering financial support, and most poignantly, from teens and young adults in situations painfully similar to what Emma had experienced. Listen to this one, Emma said, reading from her laptop as they sorted through responses. I've been managing my diabetes alone since I was 15. My parents think I'm exaggerating for attention. I didn't know there were others like me until I saw your story. Michael nodded solemnly. That's exactly why we're doing this, to create visibility and solutions for a problem that's been hidden for too long. As they worked side by side, responding to messages and organizing resources, Emma realized how far they'd come from that first day in the hospital, when she'd been an abandoned patient, and he'd been a surgeon making an impulsive decision. No, she said thoughtfully. When my father left that letter, he thought he was ending his responsibility for me. He never imagined he was actually connecting me to something better. Michael looked up from his computer. Sometimes the worst moments in our lives lead us to where we're meant to be, he observed. Not that it makes them any less painful when we're going through them. Emma nodded, thinking of her mother's death, her father's abandonment, her health, struggles, the winding path that had somehow led her here, to this moment of purpose and belonging. The foundation launch event is next month, Michael noted, changing the subject. Just before you leave for Dartmouth's summer program. Perfect timing, almost like you planned it that way, Emma teased. Michael smiled, neither confirming nor denying the accusation. The Bridge Foundation, he said instead, testing the name they'd chosen together, helping others cross from abandonment to support, from illness to wellness, from isolation to family. Emma added softly. The words hung between them, a simple truth that had taken them both by surprise. Family wasn't always what you were born into. Sometimes, it was what you built together. One decision, one day, one bridge at a time. The Bridge Foundation's launch event was held in the hospital's grand atrium, transformed for the evening with elegant lighting and displays explaining the Foundation's mission. Local dignitaries, medical professionals, and potential donors mingled among standing tables, draped in the Foundation's colors of blue and silver. Emma stood near one of the displays, explaining the Foundation's educational support program to an interested couple. She'd grown comfortable in this role over the past few weeks, finding her voice as an advocate. In a simple navy dress and with her dark hair swept up, she looked older than her 18 years, poised and articulate. The scholarship component ensures that medical challenges don't derail educational goals, she explained. Many teens with chronic conditions fall behind academically, not because they lack ability, but because they lack support. Impressive program, the man commented. And you're involved in the development? Emma is our secret weapon, Michael said, joining the conversation. She keeps us focused on what matters most to the young people we serve. As the couple moved on, Michael leaned closer to Emma. You're a natural at this. 3 people have asked if you're our development director. Emma laughed. Not bad for someone who starts college in 2 months. Speaking of which, Michael began, but was interrupted by Maria hurrying toward them, her expression troubled. Michael, she said in a low voice, there's someone here you should know about. Emma followed Maria's gaze across the room and froze. Standing near the entrance, looking distinctly uncomfortable in a rumpled suit, was her father. What is he doing here? Emma whispered, her composure cracking. Michael's expression hardened. I'll handle this, he said, moving toward Robert Wilson, with purpose in his stride. No, Emma said, catching his arm. I should go too. It's my fight as much as yours. Together they approached the man who had abandoned Emma nearly a year before. He looked older than Emma remembered, his face more lined, his posture less confident. Mr. Wilson, Michael greeted him coolly. This is an unexpected appearance. Robert shifted awkwardly, his gaze darting between Michael and Emma. I saw the news piece, he said finally, about the Foundation. And Emma stood straight, finding strength in Michael's steady presence beside her. Why are you here, Dad? The familiar address felt strange on her tongue after so many months of silence. Robert seemed to notice it too, flinching slightly. You look well, he observed, avoiding her question. Healthy, I am, Emma confirmed. No thanks to you. The blunt statement hung in the air between them. Robert glanced around it. The elegant event, the prominent donors, the displays featuring Emma's smiling face alongside Michael's. I see you've done quite well for yourself, he said, an edge creeping into his voice. Landed on your feet with a wealthy doctor. Smart move. Michael tensed beside her, but Emma placed a restraining hand on his arm. This isn't the place, she murmured. Perhaps we should speak somewhere more private, Michael suggested, his tone professional despite the anger Emma could sense beneath it. They moved to a small meeting room off the main atrium, the sounds of the event muffled by the closed door. Emma stood near the window, deliberately creating distance between herself and her father. Why now? She asked once they were alone. It's been almost a year. No calls, no texts after that birthday message telling me not to contact you again. Robert ran a hand through his thinning hair. I've been seeing the Foundation mentioned everywhere. Local news, hospital publications. Your face is on billboards, Emma. That doesn't answer my question, she pressed. Diane and I are having problems, he admitted reluctantly. Financial issues. The twins need special preschool programs, expensive ones. Understanding dawned, cold and clear. You need money, Emma stated flatly. I need what should rightfully come to my family, Robert countered, his voice hardening. This doctor swoops in, takes my daughter, adopts her into what I'm sure is a considerable fortune, and then uses her story to launch some vanity charity project. There's something not right about that. Michael, who had been silently observing, stepped forward. Mr. Wilson, let me be very clear. You abandoned your critically ill daughter at a hospital. You left a letter explicitly stating you wanted nothing more to do with her care or custody. You changed the locks on your home to prevent her return. I was under tremendous stress, Robert protested. The medical bills were a fraction of what they could have been with proper preventative care, Michael interrupted, his voice clinical and precise. Care you consistently failed to provide. Emma watched her father's face, searching for any sign of genuine remorse or concern. She found none, only calculation and a growing defensiveness. "Emma," Robert said, turning to her with what she recognized as his persuasive business voice, "you must understand how this looks. A surgeon in his 40s suddenly taking in a teenage girl, lavishing gifts on her, adopting her. People will talk. People already talk," Emma replied calmly. "They talk about how you left your daughter at a hospital and never came back." "I made mistakes," Robert conceded, though his tone lacked genuine contrition. "But I'm still your father. Blood means something." "It meant nothing when you called me a burden," Emma pointed out. "It meant nothing when you chose your new family over me. Why should it mean something now?" Robert's facade cracked slightly. "You have no idea what it was like. Watching you get sick over and over. Just like your mother. The same symptoms. The same hospital rooms. It was like losing her all over again." For the first time, Emma glimpsed the truth behind his abandonment. Not just financial strain or inconvenience, but fear. Fear that she would die like her mother had, and he couldn't bear to watch. "I was scared too," she said softly, "but I didn't get to walk away." The three of them stood in tense silence, years of unspoken hurt filling the space between them. "What do you want, Mr. Wilson?" Michael finally asked. "Why are you really here?" Robert straightened, businessman mask slipping back into place. "I think I deserve some consideration in all this. My daughter's story is being used to raise what I imagine is substantial funding. As her biological father, you have no legal standing," Michael interrupted, his tone final. "The adoption is complete. Emma is an adult, and the Foundation's work has nothing to do with you. We'll see about that," Robert threatened, though his bluster lacked conviction. "I could go public with my side of the story." "You could," Emma agreed, surprising both men with her calm. "You could tell everyone how you neglected my medical care for years, how you abandoned me after surgery, how you changed the locks on our home so I couldn't return. Is that really the story you want to share?" Robert stared at her, seemingly seeing for the first time not the sickly, dependent daughter he'd discarded, but a composed young woman standing firmly on her own ground. "I've moved on, Dad," Emma continued gently. "The Foundation isn't about you, or even really about me. It's about helping kids who don't have anyone to stand up for them. If you can't support that, then there's nothing left to discuss." She turned to Michael, who was watching her with unmistakable pride. "We should get back to the event. People will be wondering where we went." Robert made one last attempt. "Emma, you can't just erase 16 years of being my daughter." "I'm not erasing anything," Emma interrupted. "I'm building something new. You're welcome to be part of my life if you can respect that, but not if you're just here for money or to cause problems." With that, she walked to the door, Michael following after a final warning glance at Robert. They returned to the reception, leaving Emma's father alone in the meeting room with his failed manipulations. "Are you okay?" Michael asked quietly as they rejoined the event. Emma took a deep breath, smoothing her dress. "Yes," she said, realizing with some surprise that it was true. "I think I finally am." The auditorium buzzed with excitement as families filed in, clutching programs and flowers, searching for the best views of the stage where their graduates would soon receive their diplomas. Emma sat among her classmates in alphabetical order, the blue graduation gown crisp around her shoulders, the honor cords, gold for academic excellence, silver for science achievement, draped around her neck. A year had passed since the Foundation launch and her confrontation with her father. A year of growth, challenge, and unexpected joy. After completing her summer program at Dartmouth, Emma had returned for her senior year at her original high school, insisting that changing schools for just 1 year made little sense. The daily commute was longer from Michael's house, but worth it to maintain continuity with her teachers and the few close friends she'd managed to keep, despite her prolonged absences. Now, as she waited for the ceremony to begin, Emma scanned the audience. 3 rows back, center section, she spotted them. Michael in a charcoal suit, Maria beside him in a vibrant floral dress, both beaming with pride. Michael caught her eye and gave a subtle thumbs up. Emma smiled back, then turned to listen as the principal began his opening remarks. The ceremony proceeded with traditional pomp, speeches about future potential, reminiscences about shared experiences, the ritualistic conferring of diplomas. As valedictorian, Emma would give the final student address, a responsibility that filled her with both pride and nervousness. "Emma Wilson," the principal announced when her turn came to receive her diploma. She crossed the stage with steady steps, accepting the rolled parchment with a smile. The cheers from Michael and Maria rose above the polite applause. Maria's distinctive, "Bravo, mi niña," carrying across the auditorium. After the last diploma was distributed, the principal returned to the podium. And now, our valedictorian address from a student whose academic excellence is matched only by her perseverance through extraordinary challenges. Please welcome Emma Wilson. Emma approached the podium, adjusting the microphone as she placed her carefully prepared speech before her. Looking out at the sea of faces, some familiar, most not, she took a deep breath and began. Distinguished faculty, proud parents, family, friends, and my fellow graduates, we gather today at a threshold. One of many will cross in our lives. Behind us lie the structured years of childhood education. Before us stretches the unmapped territory of our futures. Her voice, initially soft, gained strength as she continued. The traditional valedictorian speech celebrates achievement and offers wisdom for the road ahead. But today, I want to talk about something we don't discuss enough: how our paths rarely follow the routes we expect, and how our true families aren't always those we're born into. In the audience, Michael sat straighter, his expression intensifying. A year ago, I thought I knew the shape my life would take. I had plans, expectations, assumptions about who would be beside me on graduation day. Then illness and circumstance redrew my map entirely. Emma paused, gathering herself. What I learned, what I hope all of us learn before it's taught through hardship, is that family isn't defined by blood or legal documents. Family is built through actions. Who stays when? It would be easier to leave. Who listens when there are no easy answers? Who sees your potential when others see only your challenges? Her gaze found Michael in the crowd, their connection palpable even across the distance. I stand here today because someone chose to be family to me when I had none. Someone who saw not just what I was, but what I could become. This person taught me that our greatest strength isn't in never falling, but in how we rise after we fall, and who helps us to our feet. Throughout the auditorium, tissues appeared as parents dabbed at eyes. Even some of Emma's classmates, usually indifferent to graduation speeches, were paying close attention. As we leave this place that has shaped us, remember this: you always have the power to choose your family, not just those you're born to, but those you gather around you through love, respect, and shared purpose. Choose wisely. Choose those who believe in you, especially when you struggle to believe in yourself. Emma's voice softened for her conclusion. My fellow graduates, we stand at the beginning of countless possibilities. Some of us know exactly where we're heading. Others are still finding our way. Wherever your path leads, I hope you find your true family along the way, the people who will celebrate your triumphs, support you through difficulties, and remind you of your worth when you forget. She looked directly at Michael as she finished. Thank you to the teachers who guided us, the friends who stood beside us, and the families, both born and chosen, who loved us to this moment. Congratulations, class of 2025. Our future begins today. The applause was immediate and enthusiastic, with many in the audience rising to their feet. Emma returned to her seat, heart racing but soul steady. She'd spoken her truth, honored the journey that had brought her here, and publicly acknowledged the man who had become more father to her in 1 year than Robert Wilson had been in the previous 3. After the ceremony, amid the chaos of jubilant graduates and photo-taking families, Emma made her way to Michael and Maria. Without hesitation, Michael enveloped her in a tight hug. That was beautiful, he said, his voice rough with emotion, and entirely unexpected. I wanted to surprise you, Emma admitted, to thank you properly. Mi estrella brillante, Maria exclaimed, taking her turn to embrace Emma. So eloquent, so wise. Your mother would be so proud. The mention of her mother brought unexpected tears to Emma's eyes. I think she would, she agreed softly. As they made their way through the crowd toward the exit, Emma was stopped by classmates offering congratulations, teachers giving final words of encouragement. Several parents approached as well, moved by her speech. Your words about chosen family really resonated, one mother said, squeezing Emma's hand. My son was adopted as a toddler. He's always known blood doesn't make a family. Love does. Outside in the June sunshine, Michael placed a hand on Emma's shoulder. I have something for you, he said, reaching into his jacket pocket. He withdrew a small box wrapped in silver paper with a delicate blue ribbon, the colors of the Bridge Foundation, which had become their shared passion over the past year. Emma opened it carefully to find a slender silver bracelet with a small charm, a microscope, perfectly detailed. "For the future, Dr. Wilson," Michael said as he fastened it around her wrist, the first of many professional milestones. The inscription inside the band caught Emma's eye. "Bridges built, mountains climbed. Proud of you, Dad." The simple word, Dad, so different from the formal Michael she still used most days, brought fresh tears to her eyes. "Is that okay?" Michael asked softly, noting her reaction. "If it's too much, it's perfect," Emma interrupted, throwing her arms around him in another hug. "Thank you, Dad." The word felt right, natural in a way she hadn't expected, not replacing her birth father or erasing her past, but acknowledging the truth of what they had become to each other. "Now," Maria interjected, wiping her own tears. "To the restaurant. I've ordered enough food for an army. The reservation is at 2. As they walked to the car, Emma between Michael and Maria, she thought about the journey that had brought her here, from abandoned patient to valedictorian, from medical tragedy to medical triumph, from lost daughter to found family. The path ahead still held challenges. College would mean separation, though Dartmouth's New Hampshire campus was close enough for regular visits. Her kidney condition would require ongoing management. The Foundation's work would continue to remind her of how close she had come to a very different outcome. But for the first time since her mother's death, Emma faced the future not with dread or resignation, but with confidence and hope. She had found her bridge to a better life, and now she would help build bridges for others. 5 years later, the hospital corridors felt different now. Emma moved through them with the confidence of belonging rather than the hesitation of a patient. Her white coat, embroidered with Emma Wilson medical student, still felt new enough to make her stand a bit straighter as she made her way to the pediatric nephrology unit. At 23, Emma had matured into a poised young woman. Her dark hair was cut in a practical bob. Her face had lost the last remnants of adolescence, and her eyes held the quiet assurance of someone who had found her purpose. She was in her 2nd year of medical school at Johns Hopkins, close enough to visit home regularly, prestigious enough to open doors to the specialized training she would need for her chosen field. Today, however, she wasn't at her medical school. She was back at the hospital where everything had changed 5 years before, completing a special observational rotation arranged through the Bridge Foundation. The program allowed medical students with chronic conditions to shadow specialists in their field of interest, creating mentorship opportunities often unavailable to students with health challenges. "Emma!" a familiar voice called from the nurse's station. Jackie, the nurse who had cared for Emma during her post-surgical abandonment, waved her over. "Perfect timing. Dr. Patel just started rounds." "Thanks, Jackie," Emma replied with a warm smile. After all these years, the nurse still looked out for her, though now as a colleague rather than a patient. Emma joined the group of physicians and medical students following Dr. Patel, the renowned nephrologist who had consulted on her case during her relapse. He nodded to her in recognition before continuing his discussion of the patient whose chart they were reviewing. 16-year-old female, admitted 3 days ago with acute kidney injury following untreated strep infection, Dr. Patel explained. History of recurrent UTIs inadequately treated, parents divorced, limited insurance coverage, inconsistent follow-up. Classic case of preventable kidney damage due to social determinants of health. Emma felt a chill of recognition. The circumstances sounded painfully familiar. "Treatment plan?" Dr. Patel asked the assembled students. As others offered medical interventions, Emma found herself focused on the social aspects. When the group moved on to the next patient, she lingered, glancing at the name on the door. Lily Martinez, something, compelled her to return after rounds concluded. She found a thin girl with long dark hair sitting up in bed, listlessly flipping through channels on the television. "Hi, Lily," Emma said from the doorway. "I'm Emma Wilson, a medical student. Mind if I come in?" The girl shrugged, the universal teenage gesture of reluctant permission. Emma entered, taking note of the room's emptiness. No flowers, no cards, no personal items beyond a worn backpack in the corner. "How are you feeling today?" Emma asked, sitting in the visitor's chair. "Fine," Lily replied automatically, then seemed to reconsider. "Actually, not great. My back still hurts. And no one will tell me when I can go home. Kidney infections can be pretty painful," Emma acknowledged. Has your family been able to visit? Lily's expression shuddered. Mom works double shifts. She can't miss work to sit here. Dad's not really in the picture. The familiar pattern made Emma's heart ache. That must be tough, she said simply. Something in her tone must have registered with Lily, because the girl looked at her more directly. You sound like you actually get it. Most doctors just make notes and look disappointed when I say no one's here. I do get it, Emma confirmed. I was a patient on this very floor when I was 17. Kidney issues too. Lily's interest visibly sparked. Really? What happened? Long story short, I had surgery. My father decided he couldn't handle my medical issues anymore, and I ended up temporarily living with my surgeon who eventually adopted me. Emma summarized her extraordinary journey with deliberate casualness. Lily's eyes widened. That's like a movie or something. Emma smiled. It does sound that way, doesn't it? But it was just my life. Messy and complicated, like most lives are. So you got better? Obviously, since you're in medical school. My condition is chronic, Emma clarified. I'll always have reduced kidney function, but with proper care and medication, I manage it well enough to pursue my goals. Lily absorbed this information, her expression thoughtful. My mom tries, she said suddenly, as if needing to defend her absent parent. She just doesn't understand all the medical stuff, and she can't afford to miss work. I believe you, Emma assured her. The healthcare system isn't designed for single working parents or complex chronic conditions. That's actually part of what I'm working to change. Before Lily could respond, a nurse appeared with medication. Emma excused herself, but promised to check in again later. Instead of continuing her rounds, however, she headed to a different part of the hospital, the surgical wing where her adoptive father still performed his life-changing operations. Michael was between surgeries, reviewing charts in his office when Emma knocked on the open door. He looked up, his face breaking into a warm smile at the sight of her. Emma, I thought you were shadowing Dr. Patel today. I am, she confirmed, entering and closing the door behind her. But I'd just met someone who reminded me so much of myself. 5 years ago, teenage girl, kidney problems, absent father, overworked mother. She's falling through the same cracks I was. Michael set aside his charts, giving her his full attention. The foundation case manager should be notified, he said. What's her name? Lily Martinez. But that's not why I came to find you. Emma sat across from him, leaning forward intently. I've been thinking about the next phase of the foundation's work. Michael nodded, recognizing her expression, the same focused determination she'd shown when proposing her college research project or planning her medical school applications. I want to create a specialized program for teens with kidney disease, Emma continued, one that combines medical case management with peer mentorship from medical students who have chronic conditions themselves, people who've been there, who can say, I understand, and actually mean it. Sounds promising, Michael observed. What would you call it? Emma smiled, the answer ready. The James Project. Michael stilled, emotion flickering across his features. James, your son's name deserves to be part of this legacy, Emma said, softly, if that's okay with you. For a moment, Michael couldn't speak, visibly moved by the suggestion. He would have liked that, he said finally. He was always looking out for younger kids, even at 12. Then it's settled, Emma declared. The James Project, under the Bridge Foundation umbrella. We could start with a pilot program here, then expand to other hospitals if it proves effective. Michael regarded her with evident pride. From patient to advocate to program developer. You've come full circle, Emma. Not quite full circle, she corrected. More like a spiral, coming around to similar ground but at a higher level, using what happened to me to create something better for others. Their conversation was interrupted by Michael's pager. He checked it with the practiced glance of a surgeon accustomed to interruptions. They need me in OR3. We'll continue this discussion at home? Emma nodded, standing to leave. I should get back to Dr. Patel's service anyway. Dinner together tonight? Absolutely. Maria's making your favorite lasagna. She claims you're too thin from all that studying and not enough eating. Emma laughed, the familiar concern warming her. Some things never change. As they parted ways in the corridor, Michael. Toward the operating rooms, Emma back to pediatric nephrology. She reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought her here, from abandoned patient to medical student, from burden to bridge builder, from unwanted daughter to beloved family member. When she returned to Lily's room, she found the girl with a social worker, looking overwhelmed by forms and explanations of follow-up care. Mind if I join you? Emma asked. directing the question to both Lily and the social worker. At Lily's nod, Emma sat beside her bed. "Lily, have you ever heard of the Bridge Foundation?" The social worker's expression brightened with recognition. "Actually, I was just about to mention their programs. I volunteer with them," Emma explained to Lily. "They helped me when I was in a situation a lot like yours. They could help make sure you get consistent care, transportation to appointments, educational support, whatever you need to manage your condition without it derailing your life." "Why would they do that?" Lily asked, suspicion born of disappointment evident in her voice. "Nobody just helps for no reason. Because someone did it for me once," Emma answered simply. "And now I do it for others. That's how bridges get built." Later that evening, as Emma sat at the dining table with Michael and Maria, sharing stories from her day and plans for the James Project, she felt the familiar sense of belonging that had once seemed so elusive. "To think," Maria mused as she served second helpings of lasagna. "All of this began with a letter. A terrible letter that your father thought would end his responsibility, but instead began something beautiful. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes," Michael observed, echoing words he'd spoken years before. "Not that it makes them any less painful at the time." Emma nodded, thinking of Lily and all the others like her. Teens navigating illness without adequate support, feeling alone and overwhelmed. "The letter was just the beginning," she said. "The real story was what happened after. The choice you made, the family we built, the work we're doing now." As they continued their meal, discussing foundation plans and Emma's medical studies, the dining room that had once felt too large and empty for one grieving surgeon now hummed with purpose and connection. The house that had been a mausoleum to lost family had become a home again, not by forgetting the past, but by honoring it through new bonds and meaningful work. Emma glanced at the photo that now sat prominently on the mantel, Michael and Catherine with young James, beside a newer image of Emma, Michael, and Maria at her white coat ceremony. Different families, different times, connected by love and loss, and the courage to begin again. "You know," Emma said thoughtfully, "when that doctor read my discharge letter out loud 5 years ago, I thought it was the end of my story. I never imagined it was actually the first page of a much better one." Michael reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "Sometimes the most important journeys begin when we think we've reached a dead end. And sometimes," Emma added with a smile, "the family you find matters more than the one you lose." Outside, spring rain tapped gently against the windows, nourishing the garden that Emma and Maria had planted together, a garden that now included a small section of the flowers her mother had loved. Inside, warmth and purpose filled the spaces once hollowed by grief, not erasing what came before, but building upon it, creating something new and stronger from the broken pieces, a bridge across troubled waters, a family forged by choice rather than chance, a future shaped not by abandonment but by belonging.